Chapter 1839. Purple Heaven Star, one of the three great forces in star territory, was the home star of Purple Star. Along with Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's Water Moon Star and Sword Union's Sword Star, it was one of the top three cultivation stars in star territory. These three cultivation stars were far ahead of the other cultivation stars in terms of the richness of their world energy, the richness of their materials, and the average level of their cultivator. If cultivation stars were divided into grades, then Tongxian Realm would undoubtedly be the lowest while Shadowed Star would be ranked in the middle. None of them could be compared to these three cultivation stars. Purple Star City covered an incalculable area. It was vast and boundless, with magnificent buildings and spacious streets crisscrossing each other. On both sides of the streets, there was a wide variety of shops and cultivator lines. This was Purple Star's headquarters. For any Purple Star cultivator, this was a city that symbolized honor and belonging. Purple Star City was located on top of an excellent earth vein, so the world energy in the city was not inferior to that of spirit mountains and rivers. The inner city was even more abundant and was the core area of Purple Star, where only important Purple Star personnel could enter. On this day, a stream of light shot over from a very distant place and suddenly stopped 1,000 meters or so away from Purple Star City. The light dissipated, revealing the figure of a young man. It was Yang Kai who had rushed here. From High Heaven Sect, although he had saved a lot of time by using the cross-cultivation star space array twice, it still took Yang Kai half a year to fly to Purple Heaven Star from star territory alone. His purpose for coming here was very simple: the Star Emperor token in Purple Star's vault. Of course, it would be even better if he could obtain other gains. After all, the Star Emperor token was hidden in Purple Star's vault, so it was impossible for there to be only one token. Releasing his divine sense. After a slight probe, Yang Kai was secretly shocked by the magnificence of Purple Star City. With such a scale, it was likely only a great force could build and maintain such a scale. The city walls were about 300 meters high. It was unknown what material the city wall was made of, but Yang Kai could clearly feel the aura of a powerful restriction from it. It was not hard to imagine that if foreign enemies came to humiliate them, Purple Star City could activate its spirit array to resist them. However, Yang Kai reckoned that no one would dare to come here and look for trouble. "Is this Purple Star City?" Yang Kai seemed to be muttering to himself as he squinted towards the front. In the next moment, a fawning voice sounded in his ear: "Young Master Yang. This is indeed our Purple Star's headquarters, Purple Star City. Young Master Yang's speed is truly amazing. I didn't even feel like much time had passed yet you've already arrived here." The voice was extremely soft and was transmitted through divine sense. Besides Yang Kai, no one else could have heard it. It was none other than Zi Donglai, who was hiding in the soul-sustaining bowl. Yang Kai daring to break into Purple Star's headquarters alone naturally wasn't because he was brainless and hot-blooded. His biggest reliance was the information Zi Donglai could provide him and Purple Star's young master as a guide. As long as he acted carefully, entering Purple Star's vault shouldn't be difficult. Of course, the premise was that this little brat didn't try anything funny. After spending some time together, Yang Kai also discovered that although this little brat's talent was extraordinary and was qualified to be compared with Shui Yu and Jiyu Jianxin, his temperament was far worse. At this moment, Zi Donglai had long since lost his former high spirits and Chi Ran was nothing more than a stray dog trying to drag out an ignoble existence. He was extremely respectful towards Yang Kai, not daring to disobey him in the slightest. Sure enough, these starships in the sky are all Purple Star cities. "Are they all from your Purple Star?" Yang Kai looked up at the sky and saw more than one starship floating in the distance. There were a total of 20 to 30 starships, although they were quite far apart. Yang Kai couldn't perceive the grade of these starships, but since they dared to stop in the sky above Purple Star City, they couldn't be too bad. "Most likely," Zi Donglai replied proudly. "What young Master Yang has seen is only the tip of the iceberg. My Purple Star has trade relations with all the great and small forces in star territory, so there may be some starships from other great forces that have arrived." Yang Kai nodded gently. "Conceal your aura, I'm going in." "Yes." Zi Donglai replied obediently before quickly hiding inside the soul-sustaining bowl. Yang Kai stepped out and walked towards the towering city gate. This city gate was like the maw of a giant beast, as tall as the city walls, giving off a sense of awe. Any cultivator who came to Purple Star City for the first time would definitely be awed by the power of this city gate and wouldn't dare act presumptuously in Purple Star City. Outside the gate, there was a long line of cultivator waiting to enter the city. Yang Kai didn't want to be too conspicuous, so he obediently stayed at the back of the line. As time passed, more and more people paid a certain number of Saint crystals and received a special pass to enter the city. Suddenly, a dissatisfied voice called out from the front, "Master, why did you only charge 100 high-rank Saint crystals when that person went in just now, but I have to charge 1,000? Isn't this against the rules?" "Rules?" A sneer sounded. "Father is the city gate guard, my words are the rules. Either pay the Saint crystals or scram, you." The person who spoke just now was furious. "Is this how your Purple Star cultivator bullies others? I refuse to accept this." Most of the cultivator who were waiting in line to enter also showed displeased looks, but in the end, this was someone else's territory, so even if they were unhappy, no one said anything. Yang Kai raised his eyes and looked over and found that the one arguing with the city gate guard was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 30s. Sweeping him with his divine sense, Yang Kai found that he was only a second-order Saint King. Yang Kai didn't know where he came from, but he was actually causing trouble here for 1,000 high-rank Saint crystals. Yang Kai shook his head secretly, feeling that this person's situation was quite worrying. Bullying others? Suddenly, an aged voice rang out. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and discovered that an old man who had been sitting upright at the side had suddenly laughed sinisterly. The old man's face was wrinkled and he looked extremely old. He stood up and walked shakily. His hands were tucked in his sleeves as if he would die at any moment. Even his eyes were filled with the color of death, causing people's hearts to palpitate uncontrollably when they looked at him. Third-order origin returning realm. Yang Kai's brow rose. Purple Star was indeed worthy of its reputation. There was actually a third-order origin returning realm cultivator guarding the city gate. As the old man spoke, he took a few steps forward and glared at the troublemaker coldly. "Well said. This old master will let you understand what it means to bully others today." As soon as his voice fell, he suddenly appeared in front of the middle-aged man and, under the latter's horrified gaze, sent a palm strike towards his head. The middle-aged man was only a second-order Saint King, so how could he resist the sudden attack of a third-order origin returning realm master? Screaming in fear, the middle-aged man tried to retreat. But the old man's hand seemed to have a huge suction force, firmly holding him in place. A surging suction force came, and the middle-aged man screamed miserably. Visible to the naked eye, pure energy flowed out from the top of his head and was transmitted to the old man's withered hand, which was then absorbed by him. Outside the city gate, everyone took a few steps back in horror, their faces filled with horror. "No, senior, please let me go, I'll pay the Saint crystals," the middle-aged man shouted. "Regretting it now? What were you doing earlier?" The old man remained unmoved and instead pushed his Saint Chi even more fiercely. In just 3 breaths, the middle-aged man was reduced to a bag of bones and collapsed to the ground, completely devoid of vitality. On the other hand, an unusual flush flashed across the old man's face, as if he had suddenly become a dozen years younger, giving him a refreshed look. Outside the city gate, silence reigned as every cultivator felt a chill run down their spines. After all this was done, the old man acted as if nothing had happened and walked back to his place, closing his eyes and continuing to meditate. "Many thanks." Deacon Minute the city gate guard nodded and bowed to the old man with a flattering smile on his face. Turning around, his expression became dignified as he shouted, "This man was a spy sent by a hostile force to infiltrate my Purple Star City, but he was seen through by Deacon Minute and was killed on the spot as a warning to others. Come, carry him out and throw him into the unmarked graves outside the city." Immediately, 2 Purple Star cultivators stepped out and quickly carried the miserable corpse away. Everyone knew that this guy was lying through his teeth, but no one dared to refute him. It's getting dark, so those who want to enter the city should hurry up. The city gates will close on time and no one will be able to enter. Heh, I'm sure you all know what will happen outside at night. After the city gate guard finished speaking, He no longer paid attention to the crowd. The faces of the cultivator waiting in line changed slightly as they stepped forward and paid the St. Crystal fee to enter the city, as if there really was a great danger outside at night. Although the death of the middle-aged man just now made them feel a sense of sadness in their hearts, who told the other party's fist to be so big? Who told this guy to act so presumptuously for a trivial 1,000 St. Crystals? Wasn't that simply courting death? The city gate guard didn't seem to have any standards when it came to collecting St. Crystals, just casually quoting a price. When he encountered a beautiful girl, he would casually tease her and let her pass for free if they could hold hands or take advantage of her. There were a few people who were not pleasing to the eye who paid a lot of St. Crystals. However, the lesson of the past was a lesson for the future. No one dared to complain. Soon, it was Yang Kai's turn. The city gate guard raised his head and glanced at Yang Kai before coldly snorting, 5,000. Yang Kai's brow furrowed. This was the highest price he had ever heard. He didn't know what he had done to offend this guard, but even though he was quite annoyed, he didn't want to cause any more trouble. Reaching out, Yang Kai wiped his space ring and took out a pile of St. Crystals in front of the gate guard. The city gate guard glanced at Yang Kai in surprise, seemingly not having expected the other party to be so cooperative. Playing with the pass in his hand, the city gate guard grinned meaningfully. Friend, 5,000 is the cost of making this pass. If you want to stay in the city for a long time, you'll have to pay another 10,000 St. Crystals. Ha ha. Yang Kai couldn't help laughing, thinking to himself that this guy was treating him like a sucker. Chapter 1840. Is it funny? The city gate guard also looked at Yang Kai with a smile. You're not joking, are you? Yang Kai squinted at him and found that the other party was looking back at him fearlessly. 5,000, 10,000, this number of St. Crystals was nothing in Yang Kai's eyes. He had a huge backer like High Heaven sect and often killed people for their possessions, so even if he didn't have hundreds of millions of St. Crystals in his space ring, he had at least 100 million. But the other party's insatiable greed made Yang Kai unhappy. Do you think I'm joking with you? Boy, are you also a spy sent by an enemy force to my Purple Star City? The gate guard coldly snorted, clapping his hand lightly as he stared at Yang Kai in a leisurely manner, his eyes filled with a strong sense of threat. As soon as this remark came out, the cultivator waiting in line to enter the city all paled. They had all witnessed the fate of the middle-aged man before, and it had only been half a cup of tea's worth of time. Now, this seemingly well-dressed young man was going to follow in that man's footsteps. Suddenly, everyone's eyes filled with pity as they turned to look at Yang Kai. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Just as Yang Kai was feeling annoyed and was about to make a scene, a person suddenly appeared behind him. This person gently pushed Yang Kai aside before standing in front of the city gate guard and saying with a smile, Master, you must be joking. Naturally, he can't be a spy. He is a member of our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce and has come with me to handle this matter. As soon as this statement came out, the city gate guard was stunned, and even Yang Kai was stunned. He frowned as he glanced at the person standing in front of him and found that the other party was actually a woman. Because her back was facing him, he couldn't see her face clearly. However, her jet black hair was tied into a bun at the back of her head, revealing her slender and fair neck. She was wearing a decent long dress that outlined her slender waist and round buttocks, causing one's imagination to run wild. At this time, someone was actually willing to stand up for him. Yang Kai felt a little strange, but his impression of this woman had improved. Guild leader. Cries of surprise rang out from behind him. It was mixed with a frantic tone. One of them even rushed forward and said, shut up. The woman turned her head and glared at the person who spoke. This woman seemed to have a lot of prestige among this group of people. That person immediately fell silent. However, he glared at Yang Kai. The other women's companions also had ugly expressions. My lord, look at this. Our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce often comes to Purple Star City to trade some goods, so how could we be some inexplicable spy? This child is not sensible, so if he has offended Master in any way, Serene Dream will apologize to you here. I hope this Master can forgive me. Saying so, She took out a bag from her space ring and placed it in the guard's hand. Kids. Yang Kai couldn't help but rub his nose. The guard pondered for a moment before his eyes lit up and he grinned. 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce? I have also heard that the president of your Chamber of Commerce is called Hua Yumeng. Could you be her? The woman smiled lightly and said, I did not expect that such a trivial name would enter the ears of this master. This mistress is truly honored. Good, good. The guard looked at Hua Yumeng with shining eyes and a lewd grin appeared on his face. Since President Hua has come forward and paid enough Saint Crystals, it is not impossible to accommodate. Many thanks, Master. Hua Yumeng was overjoyed. However, the guard paused for a moment before turning a cold glare towards Yang Kai and saying, if President Hua can agree to 2 of my conditions, this matter will end here, otherwise. Hua Yumeng's smile stiffened as she whispered, please speak, Master. I don't like the look in this little brat's eyes. Also, he dared to tease me before, so I want him to apologize to me. The guard looked at Yang Kai coldly before turning his eyes to Hua Yumeng and saying with a lewd smile, second, President Hua has come from afar, so after this king has some free time, he would like to hold a welcoming dinner for President Hua. I wonder if President Hua would accept this honor? Let's have intoxicated wind pavilion in the eastern part of the city. Although he asked so, his tone did not allow Hua Yumeng to refuse at all. Hua Yumeng's face changed slightly as she forced a smile and said, can we talk about this another day? I will have this little brat apologize to Master first. Saying so, she turned her head to look at Yang Kai and kept winking at him. It was not until this moment that Yang Kai saw her true appearance. Seeing this, Yang Kai's eyes couldn't help lighting up. Although Hua Yumeng wasn't a bewitching beauty, she was still quite beautiful and exuded a mature charm from her. Probably because she was constantly running about outside, maintaining 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, her entire person exuded an indescribable aura. What's more, this woman exuded an intoxicating fragrance from close up. This fragrance was not the smell of rouge or powder, but rather a natural body fragrance. No wonder the city gate guard had been staring at her lecherously. It turned out that this was the reason. At this moment, not only was Hua Yumeng secretly winking at him, but several other cultivator from 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce were also glaring at Yang Kai, as if saying that if he dared to disobey, they would beat him to a pulp. Yang Kai smiled helplessly. He didn't expect that such a thing would happen just by entering the city. However, at this time, he could not blame anyone. After all, Hua Yumeng was also helping him. After pondering for a moment, Yang Kai cupped his fists to Hua Yumeng and said, President Hua's kindness is appreciated. Hua Yumeng frowned slightly as a bad premonition suddenly appeared in her heart. Sure enough, Yang Kai continued, however, this matter was caused by me and has nothing to do with you, so I ask President Hua to stay out of it. Saying so, ignoring Hua Yumeng's shock, he turned to the city gate guard and grinned, do you want me to apologize to you? President Hua, what's going on? It seems that this little brat is not from your 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce. Could it be that President Hua is spouting nonsense to deceive us? Do you know what punishment you deserve? The city gate guard did not put Yang Kai in his eyes at all and instead shouted at Hua Yumeng. Hua Yumeng did not expect that her good intentions would be completely ignored by the other party, causing cold sweat to drip from her forehead as she quickly waved her hand and said, Master, please listen to my explanation. This little brat, there's nothing to explain, President Hua. You've got yourself into big trouble. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation for this matter, don't even think about it. The city gate guard shouted, not giving Hua Yumeng any face, causing her pretty face to turn pale. Indeed, there's nothing to explain, Yang Kai sneered, stepped forward, and stretched out his hand to hit the city gate guard. With a loud bang, the city gate guard was sent tumbling a few times before falling to the ground, most of his teeth knocked out and his mouth covered in blood. That's the explanation. Yang Kai looked forward coldly. Hua Yumeng was dumbfounded, instinctively feeling that they had really gotten into big trouble this time. For a moment, her heart was in a mess, not knowing what to do. You dare hit me? The city gate guard staggered up from the ground, covering his cheek with his hand as he shouted incoherently, a fierce light flashing across his eyes, I am a Purple Star City Guard, how dare you hit me? Before his voice fell though, Yang Kai sent out another slap. The guard screamed as the remaining half of his teeth flew out. Bold. Deacon Minute, who had been resting with his eyes closed, finally moved. Leaping up like an eagle, he flew above Yang Kai's head, his third-order origin returning realm bursting out and covering a 10-meter radius around Yang Kai as he sent out a palm strike. Hua Yu Meng and the other 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce cultivator all involuntarily let out a muffled groan. Under this huge pressure, they were unable to circulate the Saint Chi in their bodies, the two with slightly lower strength coughing up blood on the spot. Daring to attack my Purple Star City's people, do you even put this old master in your eyes? Deacon Minute shouted angrily, his murderous intent surging as he prepared to kill Yang Kai with a single palm strike. Who do you think you are? Do you think I need to put you in my eyes? Yang Kai sneered, I didn't want to cause trouble for no reason, but you've taken advantage of your position to bully others and brought about your own destruction. Saying so, he flipped his hand and sent out a palm strike. Asterisk Hong. Asterisk the two palms collided and a huge shockwave spread outwards. Deacon Min's murderous old face, which was originally filled with murderous intent, suddenly showed a look of horror as he was sent flying like a rag sack. Asterisk catcher. Asterisk the sound of bones breaking rang out from his body as he flew through the air, blood spraying everywhere. Asterisk Hua. Asterisk outside the city gate, an uproar broke out. The conflict between Yang Kai and the city gate guards, as well as Hua Yu Meng's mediation, had been witnessed by everyone. They all thought that Yang Kai was doomed, but in the end, it turned out to be the city gate guards and Deacon Minute who suffered. With just a single palm strike, Deacon Minute was sent flying and fell to the ground, his life or death unknown. Everyone stared at Yang Kai like he was some kind of monster. Although Deacon Min's status in Purple Star was not very high, he was still a deacon. To be able to hold such a position in a behemoth like Purple Star, he was at least a third-order origin returning realm master. A third-order origin returning realm master being sent flying with a single palm strike, just how powerful was this young man? Could he be an origin king? When this thought emerged, everyone was taken aback and could no longer remain calm. After all, an origin king realm master was the highest level of combat power in the entire star territory, and even a force as strong as Purple Star was not willing to easily provoke an origin king. All of this happened too fast, so fast that no one's mind could keep up. Hua Yu Meng, president of 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, opened her mouth wide as a look of shock filled her beautiful eyes, unable to recover for a long time. At the city gate, there were more than a dozen guards who were preparing to join Deacon Minute in capturing Yang Kai and the people from 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, but when they saw that Deacon Min's life or death was unknown, how could they dare step forward? All of them froze in place, glancing around at each other in fear that Yang Kai would kill them. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and took back all the saint crystals he had paid as well as Hua Yu Meng's bag, coldly snorting as he said, I gave you 5,000 but you didn't want it. Since you don't want it, I'll take it back. President Hua, this is yours. Saying so, he tossed the bag to Hua Yu Meng. The latter caught it in a daze, not knowing why, but she felt that this bag was extremely hot. Chapter 1841. Let's go, what are you still standing around for? Yang Kai grinned at Hua Yu Meng and led the way forward. Hua Yu Meng was completely dumbfounded and had completely lost her ability to think. Hearing Yang Kai's beckoning, she followed him into Purple Star City, the other cultivator from 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce also hurrying to catch up. None of the guards at the city gate dared to block Yang Kai's path, all of them staring at him like he was some kind of monster, quickly retreating. The cultivators who were waiting in line to enter the city also saw this opportunity and rushed forward like a swarm of bees. The city gate was in chaos for a moment, and the dozen or so guards did not know whether to stop them or not. After a long time, one of them recovered and shouted, Quick, let's go check on Deacon Min's injuries. With this reminder, the others suddenly woke up and hurriedly swarmed to Deacon Min's side to check his condition with concern. Send a message. Master Lu Tianfeng. Deacon Minute coughed up a mouthful of blood each time he spoke, and after he finished speaking, he coughed up an unknown amount of blood and fainted directly. The guard who had spoken before hurriedly took out his communication artifact, poured his divine sense into it, and grit his teeth fiercely. Boy, you're dead. Daring to hit people in my Purple Star City, even the Heavenly Emperor won't be able to save you. The other guards all wore looks of resentment as they stared at Yang Kai's departing back. With Yang Kai causing such a ruckus, they were bound to be punished as well. How could they not resent him for causing such a disaster? How many years had it been since someone had dared to act presumptuously in Purple Star City? Today, such a big spectacle had actually occurred at the city gate. If this matter was not dealt with properly as a warning to others, they would become the laughingstock of the world. They would inevitably become the laughingstock of all cultivators in the world and would also affect Purple Star's reputation. This kind of consequence was not something they could afford. 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, in a room in the backyard. Hua Yumeng and the others just sat there blankly, each of their faces filled with panic as if a great catastrophe was about to befall them. Yang Kai was also sitting there, looking left and right. His face was calm, and he didn't have the awareness that a troublemaker should have. His relaxed expression made it seem like he was here to play. Brat, why did you follow me here? After a long moment of silence, he asked. Only then did a bald man realize what was going on. He turned his head and glared at Yang Kai, his eyes full of hostility. Yeah, why are you here? The other male cultivator finally came back to his senses and looked at Yang Kai in surprise. This is my first time here. He was unfamiliar with this place. It just so happened that President Hua had extended a warm invitation to him. Deference is no substitute for obedience. Yang Kai smiled faintly and explained. Me? Hua Yumeng looked at Yang Kai blankly and thought for a moment. He gently nodded and said, yes. I was the one who said it. After returning from the city gate, the people from 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce seemed to have lost their souls and were completely at a loss. This was not surprising though. 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce was just a small force that struggled to survive among the many giants of Star Territory. Every time they came to Purple Star City, they had to be extremely cautious, lest they cause trouble. However, this time, they had beaten Deacon Minute and a guard at the city gate until they coughed up blood, their fate unknown. 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, such a thing was like the sky had fallen. No one had even noticed that Yang Kai had followed them to 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, and it was only now that Hua Yumeng finally calmed down. Taking a deep breath, she stared at Yang Kai with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes for a moment before saying, Sister Hong, please take him down and arrange a guest room for him so he can rest. Down below, a beautiful woman dressed coquettishly stood up, nodded, and beckoned to Yang Kai, come with me. Many thanks. Yang Kai nodded lightly to her before getting up and following. President. Seeing Yang Kai about to leave, the burly bald-headed man anxiously called out. Hua Yumeng glared at him and the burly bald-headed man immediately shut up, not daring to say anything more. He could only glare angrily at Yang Kai's back while secretly gnashing his teeth. Yang Kai followed the beautiful woman named Sister Hong forward, constantly looking around before chuckling lightly. Madam, your Chamber of Commerce seems to have a good heritage. Why do you say so? The beautiful woman glanced back at Yang Kai coldly. Although this is the first time I have come to Purple Star City, since this is Purple Star's headquarters, every inch of land here must be worth a fortune. For your Chamber of Commerce to have such a large place, it must be quite rich. A look of vigilance appeared in the beautiful woman's eyes as she said lightly, this is the result of more than 20 years of hard work by the president and everyone here. Countless brothers and sisters have been buried in Star Territory, but this is the only place we have in Purple Star City. What's more, we've caused so much trouble this time that I don't even know if my 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce will be able to establish a foothold here in the future. Yang Kai smiled apologetically, sorry, I've caused trouble for your Chamber of Commerce. It's good that you know. The beautiful woman's expression relaxed slightly and she no longer said anything to Yang Kai before continuing to lead the way. A short time later, they arrived in front of a guest room. The beautiful woman pushed open the door and said, this is the place. The place is simple, so you can stay here for the time being. Many thanks. Yang Kai bowed slightly to express his gratitude. The beautiful woman turned around and was about to leave, but after taking a few steps, she turned back again. What other instructions does Madam have? Yang Kai looked at her suspiciously. The beautiful woman gently opened her red lips and said, "Our mistress was born with a kind heart and couldn't bear to see others being bullied. Many of our brothers and sisters received her kindness and stayed by her side out of gratitude. I am the same. If it wasn't for our mistress, I would have died 10 years ago. This time, she stood up for you, so I won't blame her, but, if Purple Star City investigates this matter, I hope you can take the initiative to stand up and take responsibility for everything. Don't let her get into trouble. She really is a good person. I don't care how strong you are, but if anything happens to her because of this matter, even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." Yang Kai's expression became solemn as he solemnly said, "I understand." "I hope so," the beautiful woman said before turning around and leaving. Inside the previous room, the burly bald man paced back and forth anxiously, like an ant on a hot pan. "Uncle Yao, can you calm down for a while? You're making me dizzy." To the right, a woman in her 20s looked helplessly at the burly bald man. "How can I calm down at a time like this?" The burly bald man shouted angrily, "It's not like you didn't see what happened just now. I'm afraid we're finished this time." Up above, Hua Yumeng gently rubbed her forehead with her hand and smiled bitterly. She did not expect that she would get into such trouble today. Her original intention was to not see Yang Kai suffer the same tragic fate as that middle-aged man, but how could she have known that Yang Kai would be so resolute and unyielding, even daring to hit a guard and a deacon of Purple Star City? "Yarrow Ching, sit down. Things have already gotten to this point, it's useless to be upset." Hua Yumeng was also dazzled by Yarrow Ching's bald head and had no choice but to ask him to calm down. As soon as she spoke, Yarrow Ching stomped his foot and walked back to his chair to sit down, but it felt like his buttocks were being pricked by thousands of needles, making it impossible for him to calm down. He kept twisting and turning, his expression stiff and ugly. Hua Yumeng cast her eyes to the elderly man below. This old man had been sitting with his eyes closed since he came in, not saying a word, giving off an unfathomable aura. Looking at the other party, Hua Yumeng asked, "Uncle Xia, you are the most experienced and knowledgeable person in the entire Chamber of Commerce. I wonder if Uncle Xia has any way to resolve this situation." Xia Jingwu slowly opened his eyes and pondered for a while before sighing, "It's difficult. Even Uncle Xia can't do anything." Hua Yumeng's heart sank to rock bottom. Xia Jingwu smiled bitterly. Although this old master has always claimed to be the think tank of the Chamber of Commerce, this old master is just a third-order Saint King cultivator. My strength is low, so many of my methods are useless. President, it's not like you don't know who you have offended this time. Hua Yumeng's beautiful eyes darkened as her expression became bitter. The Chamber of Commerce had experienced many disasters in the past, but they had all been safely passed with Xia Jingwu's proper arrangements and strategies. But this time, even Xia Jingwu was helpless. "President, you were too reckless this time." Xia Jingwu slowly shook his head. "Uncle Xia, don't scold the president. The president is just being kind, she didn't mean it," the woman in her 20s whispered softly, clearly unable to bear seeing Hua Yumeng being reprimanded. "This old master is not trying to insult the president. Which one of you here has not received the president's kindness? If the president had not been so kind, I'm afraid there would not be today's Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, and none of you here," Xia Jingwu said slowly. Everyone nodded gently in agreement. It was because of Hua Yumeng's kindness that they had been able to survive to this day. But this time, Xia Jingwu sighed heavily. Xia Jingwu sighed heavily. After a while, he looked up at Hua Yumeng and said, "President, there are only two paths we can take now." Hua Yumeng's beautiful eyes lit up as she smiled and said, "I knew Uncle Xia would have a way. Please explain in detail." Yarrow Ching and the woman in her 20s also hurriedly looked at Xia Jingwu with expectant expressions. "President speaks too highly. This old master said that these two paths may not necessarily be able to resolve the crisis of the Chamber of Commerce, but let's give it a try." Xia Jingwu stretched out his hand and stroked his beard as he quickly said, "The first path is to hand that little brat over to Purple Star City." Hua Yumeng frowned. This matter was caused by that little brat, and those people were also beaten by him. As long as we hand him over, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce may be able to avoid the main responsibility. At most, We will be punished, but there will be plenty of time in the future. As long as the president is fine, my 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce will rise again one day. Yes, Uncle Shia is right. Let's do as you say. I'll go grab that little brat now and hand him over to Purple Star City. Yarrow Qing did not wait for Hua Yumeng to speak and quickly stood up. Hua Yumeng glared at him and ordered, "Sit down." Yarrow Qing shrank his head and sat down obediently. It was obvious that Hua Yumeng had a lot of authority in front of him. Chapter 1842. Xia Jingwu stroked his beard and said, "Yarrow Qing, don't be impulsive. Although I can't see through that young man's strength, since he was able to send Deacon Minute flying with a single palm strike, he is definitely not someone you can capture. Our entire Chamber of Commerce together is likely not his opponent. If you really try to provoke him, you will only bring shame to yourself." Yarrow Qing thought about it for a while with an awkward expression, but after confirming that this was indeed the case, he could not help breaking out in a cold sweat. Hua Yumeng looked at Xia Jingwu with a wry smile and said, "This one won't do. Uncle Xia, why don't you talk about the second one?" Xia Jingwu sighed. I knew the president would not agree to this. How could Xia Jingwu not know what kind of temperament Hua Yumeng had? She was born warm-hearted and had stood up for Yang Kai outside the city gate, so how could she hand over Yang Kai at this moment and let Purple Star City decide what to do with him? If she really did so, she would not be Hua Yumeng. Since the first one won't do, we can only choose the second one to avoid disaster, Xia Jingwu said solemnly. I ask the president to take some people and leave the Chamber of Commerce quickly. Leave this place to this old master. Hua Yumeng was shocked when she heard this and asked in amazement, "Uncle Xia, since we've caused this trouble, someone naturally needs to take responsibility." It was impossible for Purple Star City to give up. In fact, they should not have entered the city just now and should have just left, but everyone had been distracted just now. Now that they had already entered the city, leaving would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. The only thing we can do now is cut off our wrist. This old master is not talented, but after being taken care of by the president for so many years, he is willing to work hard for the president. Xia Jingwu stood up and straightened his short body. He looked like he was ready to give his all until he died. I'll stay with Uncle Xia. Yarrow Qing also stood up. I'll also stay. Outside the door, the beautiful woman called Sister Hong walked in and said in a deep voice, "No." Hua Yumeng's face changed several times as she immediately refused. Haha, you really can't. If all of you stay, who will be able to assist the president in the future? My 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce will likely be finished, so all of you should leave and take some of the Chamber of Commerce's valuables with you. This old master will stay here to take care of everything. Xia Jingwu smiled lightly, not caring about life and death. What's more, this old master has some dealings with a master in Purple Star City, so if I ask him for help, I may be able to save my life. No. Hua Yumeng shook her head and said, if Purple Star City really wants to make an example of someone, I, as their president, must be here. If anyone were to stay, it would be me. All of you, leave. The group of people immediately started arguing in the room. No one could convince the other. Xia Jingwu anxiously slapped his thigh. President, there isn't much time left. I'm afraid no one will be able to leave. Could it be that you want this old man to kneel down and beg you? All right, this old man will kneel and beg you. Saying so, he really knelt down towards Hua Yumeng. Uncle Xia. Hua Yumeng's face changed drastically as her figure flickered and disappeared from the chair, appearing in front of Xia Jingwu in the next moment. Just as she was about to reach out to help Xia Jingwu suddenly raised his hand and threw a cloud of powder towards Hua Yumeng. How could Hua Yumeng have thought that Xia Jingwu would take action against her at this time? In a moment of carelessness, she inhaled a little of this powder and in the next moment, her whole body went limp as she stared at Xia Jingwu in a daze. Flower rain, crystal rain. Uncle Xia, what are you doing? Yarrow Qing saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse and immediately roared as he rushed forward towards Xia Jingwu aggressively. Stop. The beautiful woman named Sister Hong, however, saw what was happening and stepped forward to block Yarrow Qing while taking Hua Yumeng into her arms. Uncle Xia, you. Although Hua Yumeng was weak, she did not fall unconscious. Xia Jingwu chuckled, "Since President recognizes this flower rain crystal rain, you must also know its function. Even if President is a third-order origin returning realm cultivator, you won't be able to use your Saint Qi for an hour." Saying so, he suddenly shouted, "Jiao Hong, quickly take President out of the Chamber of Commerce and find a safe place to hide in the city. After this storm passes, find a way to leave Purple Star." The beautiful woman's tender body trembled as she looked at Xia Jingwu with tears in her beautiful eyes, nodding repeatedly, "Uncle Xia, rest assured, even if Jiao Hong dies, I will protect President. Yarou Qing, Hai Tang, you should also leave." Xia Jingwu turned his head and looked to the side. Yarou Qing and the woman in her 20s heard this and nodded. Even Yarou Qing, a man of iron, could not help crying at this moment. "Uncle Xia, you must take care of yourself." "Haha, rest assured, this old master won't die." Xia Jingwu smiled lightly and waved to everyone. Under his urging, Jiao Hong picked up Hua Yumeng and rushed out with Yarou Qing and Hai Tang, preparing to leave Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Loyal and righteous, the people of this small chamber of commerce are quite interesting. Yang Kai, who was sitting cross-legged in his room, could not help raising his brow as a look of approval appeared on his face. Although he was staying in his room, he was still able to clearly observe the dispute between the people of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Among these people, Hua Yumeng was the strongest, having reached the third-order origin returning realm. The cultivations of the others were all different, so if he wanted to spy on them with his second-order origin king strength, none of them would be able to detect him. "Ien, the situation is a bit different from what I expected." Yang Kai rubbed his forehead. His original intention was to quietly sneak into Purple Star City and, under the guidance of Zedong, steal everything from Purple Star's vault and be done with it. With his current trump cards and powerful cultivation, Yang Kai was confident he could complete this task without anyone noticing. Even if he was discovered, he could still kill his way out. However, the encounter at the city gate had put his plan on hold. Yang Kai also knew that after beating up Purple Star's people in Purple Star City, there was no way he could remain unscathed. Although he was not afraid, the people of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would likely suffer. So, after entering the city, when Hua Yumeng unconsciously invited him to Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Yang Kai readily agreed. Hua Yumeng had gotten into this mess because of him, so he couldn't just turn a blind eye to it. Now, if the people of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce wanted to escape, it would be nothing more than a fool's dream. "They are here." Yang Kai frowned as he spread out his divine sense. The next moment, he noticed that a large number of cultivators had arrived at the Chamber of Commerce. After these cultivators entered the Chamber of Commerce, they began smashing things without warning, causing many of the cultivators who were shopping in the Chamber of Commerce to flee in panic. All the shop assistants were knocked to the ground and howled miserably. Jiao Hong and the others, who had just walked out of the backyard, did not have time to escape before several extremely powerful auras rushed towards them. One of them shouted angrily, "You injured my Purple Star City's guards and now you want to escape? Your Five Paths Chamber of Commerce is simply lawless." As soon as his voice fell, he threw a punch forward. Jiao Hong was the first to bear the brunt of this attack and her pretty face changed drastically as she hurriedly pulled Hua Yumeng behind her, using her back to face the oncoming attack. Yarou Qing and Hai Tang also cried out in alarm as they hurriedly summoned their artifacts to resolve this fierce offensive. Hong Long Long. After a loud bang, most of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce's backyard was destroyed and Jiao Hong, Yarou Qing, and Hai Tang were sent flying backwards, all three of them coughing up blood mid-air. When they landed, their faces were pale and bloodless. Hualala. Countless armored cultivators poured in from the front door, each of them holding a spear and quickly forming a circle around the backyard. A burly figure stepped out from the front with his hands crossed behind his back and a dignified look on his face. "Master Bai." Xia Jingwu, who had rushed over after hearing the news, saw this person and could not help his face changing drastically as he hurriedly stepped forward and cupped his fists in greeting. He recognized at a glance that this person was one of the vice-commanders of Purple Star City's guards, Bai Zhengchu. Purple Star City's guards were led by Lu Tianfeng, an Origin King Realm Master. Under him were 8 vice-commanders, all of whom were peak origin returning realm masters. They were responsible for managing the peace of the city and dealing with various disputes. Bai Zhengchu was one of them. He would not intervene in trivial matters. This time, because Deacon Minute had been injured, he had brought him here to Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. As soon as he saw this guy arrive, Xie Jingwu realized that the situation had taken a turn for the worse. It was rumored that Bai Zhengchu had the most violent temper of the 8 vice-commanders and killed people like flies. Any Shang family that was targeted by him would end up in ruin. Over the years, he had served as a vice-commander and had destroyed at least 80 Shang families at his hands. These Shang families not only had their shops closed down but also their staff. Xie Jingwu's whole body trembled as he thought to himself that this time, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would really be doomed. Scram! Bai Zhengchu did not even spare him a glance and simply shouted angrily. His voice condensed into a thread of energy that shot into Xie Jingwu's body, causing him to collapse to the ground and suffer some internal injuries. In the backyard, everyone from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce wore ashen faces, their eyes filled with despair. The malicious eyes of the surrounding Purple Star city guards made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Bai Zhengchu turned his head and looked around before coldly snorting, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, haha, there's no need for it to exist. As soon as this statement came out, everyone's face changed wildly. Bai Zhengchu's words were tantamount to a death sentence for the Chamber of Commerce. Hua Yumeng, who was being held in Jiao Hong's arms, said weakly, Master Bai, this matter is a misunderstanding. Can this mistress explain it to you? Bai Zhengchu turned his eyes in the direction of Hua Yumeng and coldly snorted, there's no need to explain. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce will be closed down from today and all its personnel will be thrown into the Purple Star Frozen Prison. Purple Star Frozen Prison, Jiao Hong exclaimed. The Frozen Prison was a famous existence in Purple Star City. It was a place specially used to imprison criminals, but no one who entered had ever come out alive. Once they entered that place, it would be a fate worse than death. The two of you are quite pretty. Bai Zhengchu stretched out his hand and pointed to Hua Yumeng and Jiao Hong, saying lightly, how about this? You can accompany our brothers for a few days and I'll give you a quick death so you don't have to suffer in the frozen prison. His tone was indifferent, but the words he uttered were chilling to the bone. Both Jiao Hong and Hua Yumeng's pretty faces turned pale while the guards surrounding them grinned obscenely. Obviously, this was not the first time they had done such a thing. Chapter 1843. Master Bai. Cold sweat dripped down Xie Jingwu's forehead as he forced a smile, stepped forward, and cupped his fists. Master Bai, this one is Xie Jingwu. I met Master Bai 3 years ago. Does Master still remember this one? Bai Zhengchu looked at him coldly. Who do you think you are? Ha ha. Xie Jingwu chuckled awkwardly. Master's memory is short, so naturally you don't remember this one. However, this one has a good relationship with Kang Sheng, Master's subordinate, and there is a reason for today's matter. Could Master enter the inner hall for a moment so this one can report to you in detail? Saying so, Xie Jingwu took off the space ring on his hand and handed it to Bai Zhengchu without a trace. This space ring contained almost all of his belongings, but he still handed it over without hesitation because he knew that if the Chamber of Commerce could not survive this calamity, he would not be able to enjoy it no matter how much he had. You know Kang Sheng? Bai Zhengchu glanced at Xie Jingwu in surprise. Xie Jingwu nodded repeatedly. This one is fortunate to have met you. Bai Zhengchu sneered. It seems that Kang Sheng doesn't need to be the guard captain anymore. Why are you befriending such a mess? As soon as this statement came out, Xie Jingwu's face changed drastically. With just a few words, he had dragged the guard captain named Kang Sheng into the water, causing him to suffer an undeserved calamity. After this incident, even if Bai Zhengchu didn't embarrass him and Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Kang Sheng wouldn't give up. The friendship between him and Kang Sheng was entirely based on Saint Crystals, so this kind of friendship was extremely fragile. Your courage isn't small. Daring to bribe this vice-commander in front of everyone, Bai Zhengchu coldly snorted as he reached out and took Xie Jingwu's space ring. Without even looking at it, he tossed it to one of the cultivators next to him. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce attacked first, despised Purple Star City's laws, and tried to bribe this vice commander. This is a triple crime. Arrest them all. Yes. The group of cultivators shouted and surrounded the people from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Inside the Chamber of Commerce. Except for Hua Yu Meng, who was a third-order origin returning realm master. Only the woman named Gao Hong was a first-order origin returning realm cultivator, while everyone else was just a Saint King realm cultivator. If Hua Yu Meng was in perfect condition, she may have been able to put up a fight. However, she had been hit by Xia Jingwu's flower rain. His entire body felt weak and powerless. Although they were conscious, they were unable to use their Saint Qi and could only watch as their brothers and sisters were captured. Soon, everyone from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was captured. Xia Jingwu and Yarrow Qing were both beaten black and blue. We weren't the ones who hit him, so why are you taking us for? I refuse to accept this. Yarrow Qing straightened his neck and shouted. Oh, it wasn't you guys. So many people outside the city gate saw it. The one who hit them was your Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. How could it be false? If you say it wasn't us, it wasn't us. Yarrow Qing grit his teeth and roared. Master Bai. Gao Hong struggled for a while before shouting, reporting to Master, the one who hit us was indeed not someone from our Chamber of Commerce. That person was able to defeat Deacon Minute in one move, so how could my little Five Paths Chamber of Commerce invite such a master? Master is wise and wise, surely you can't even think of this, right? Bai Zhengchu narrowed his eyes as he glared at Gao Hong and coldly snorted. Are you accusing this vice commander of not being able to distinguish right from wrong? I wouldn't dare. Gao Hong's tender body trembled under his pressure, but she still grit her teeth and continued. It's just that if Master only takes innocent people like us while letting the real culprit go unpunished, if Commander Lu learns of this, I wonder if Commander Lu will think that Master is unable to distinguish right from wrong and is incompetent. Impudence! Bai Zhengchu roared, his expression fierce. Gao Hong struggled to maintain her composure and stared back at him. After a while, Bai Zhengchu grinned meaningfully. I didn't expect there to be so many bold people in this little Chamber of Commerce. I like it. Good, since you say that the one who hit us was not from your Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, then, where is he? He's still here. Gao Hong could not help breathing a sigh of relief and quickly replied. Gao Hong. Hua Yu Meng's pretty face changed slightly as she stared at Gao Hong with a look of blame. Gao Hong smiled bitterly. President, that person caused trouble himself, so we can't let our Chamber of Commerce take responsibility for him. Regardless of whether you blame me or not, I have to tell him. Saying so, she stretched out her hand and pressed an acupuncture point on Hua Yu Meng's back, rendering Hua Yu Meng unable to speak and only able to stare at her. The one who hit us is still from your Chamber of Commerce, yet you dare say he's not one of your people? Bai Zhengchu looked at Gao Hong with a sneer. Do you think this vice commander is an idiot? Gao Hong said in a deep voice, it's precisely because he's not a member of our Chamber of Commerce that this little girl thought of a way to stabilize him and wait for sirs to arrive so that you can capture the real culprit. What a sharp tongue. Bai Zhengchu smiled slightly, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Good, in that case, lead the way. I want to see which bastard dares to act presumptuously in my Purple Star City. Master, this way please. Gao Hong gestured and immediately led the way. Even though she was leading the way, she did not put down Hua Yu Meng, who had gone limp all over, but instead held her in her arms. She narrowed her eyes and looked towards the room where Yang Kai was located, her expression constantly changing. After a while, her beautiful eyes became firm, as if she had made up her mind about something, quietly lowering her hand and waving her fingers rhythmically a few times. Xia Jingwu, who was following behind, saw this and could not help wearing a solemn expression. A moment later, under Gao Hong's leadership, a group of people crowded outside the room where Yang Kai was located. My lord, that person is inside. If my lord doesn't believe us, just call him out and confront him face to face. Then you'll know whether what we said before is true or false. Gao Hong stood to the side and pointed at the room. Bai Zhengchu ignored her and instead squinted towards the room, sweeping it with his divine sense. He did notice that there was a person's aura inside, but when he tried to spy on the other party's cultivation, he found that his divine sense had no effect at all. It simply passed through the other party's body like a stone sinking into the sea. This discovery startled Bai Zhengqiu as he realized that the other party's strength was not low. After all, this person was able to injure Deacon Minute with a single move, so if he was weak, he could not have done so. As such, Bai Zhengqiu did not dare to act too presumptuously and quickly took back his divine sense. However, this was Purple Star City, and as the vice commander, he was used to acting arrogant and domineering, so he did not put Yong Kai in his eyes. Instead, he shouted, "Your Excellency, who are you? Daring to injure people in Purple Star City, quickly show yourself." As soon as his voice fell, there was no movement from the room. Bai Zhengqiu's face suddenly became somewhat ugly as he sneered and said, "Friend, if you know what's good for you, come out yourself. I don't care where you come from or what your cultivation is, anyone who dares to act presumptuously in Purple Star City will not have a good end. If you cooperate obediently, you may have a chance to live, otherwise." Bai Zhengqiu waited for a while with a sullen face, but still did not receive a reply. He could not help becoming angry out of shame and angrily shouted, acting all mysterious, "Just wait until this vice commander throws you into the frozen prison. Let's see if you can still act so arrogantly then." Saying so, he stretched out his hand and pointed to the 5 or 6 cultivator next to him and said, "Go in and grab him." The 5 or 6 cultivator were not fools and knew that the person inside the room was not someone to be trifled with, but since Bai Zhengqiu had issued an order, they did not dare disobey and could only grit their teeth and rush in. Everyone thought that there would be some kind of movement inside, or at least some sounds of fighting, but to everyone's surprise, after the 5 or 6 cultivators entered the room, it was as if they had disappeared into thin air, not making the slightest sound. If it were not for their vitality and aura, everyone would have thought that they had disappeared. Bai Zhengqiu's face became even more solemn. The people from 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce also looked at each other, not knowing what had happened inside. At that moment, several figures flew out from inside and fell to the ground one by one, motionless. It was none other than the few cultivator who had just rushed in. Each of them had a serene look on their faces, as if they had just fallen asleep. On the surface, they did not seem to have suffered any injuries, and one of them even had a smile on his face, as if he was dreaming of something good. Sigh. Bai Zhengqiu sucked in a breath of cold air. These cultivator were all Origin Returning Realm Masters, and although they were only First Order Origin Returning Realm Masters, they were not people who could be casually controlled. Even if Bai Zhengqiu took action personally, it would be impossible for him to control them to this extent. Who are these people inside this room? Bai Zhengqiu's heart pounded. However, as one of the 8 vice commanders of Purple Star City, he could not show weakness in this situation. His expression changed for a while before he shouted, "Follow me." If he couldn't take down this troublemaker today, he wouldn't be able to maintain his position as vice commander. At this moment, he could only secretly pray that the other party was not an Origin King, otherwise, they would have no chance of winning. A group of people rushed into the room. This time, it was no longer silent as the sounds of fighting and screams immediately rang out. Immediately afterward, one cultivator after another flew out of the room and fell to the ground, howling miserably. In the blink of an eye, all the people who had rushed in were thrown out, leaving only Bai Zhengqiu inside, but from his screams, it was clear that he was in a very bad situation. Now, Jiao Hong, who had been watching coldly, suddenly shouted as she hugged Hua Yumeng and quickly flew up into the sky. Xia Jingwu, who had already understood, also shouted, "Go." Yarrow Qing and Hai Tang only reacted at this moment and quickly caught up with Xia Jingwu and Jiao Hong, trying to take advantage of the chaos to escape. However, they had only flown up 100 feet when a terrifying aura came from right in front of them. That aura was like a thick blanket pressing down on them. Jiao Hong and the others were caught off guard, and their bodies froze as they were directly pushed back. Mid-air, a ripple flashed, and at the center of this ripple, a figure appeared like a ghost. Chapter 1844. It was unknown when that person had arrived here, but it was as if he had always been there. This person was wearing a precious armor that was emitting strong fluctuations. He carried a long spear on his shoulder and a jade crown on his head. He looked majestic, just like a great general who was unhindered on the battlefield and looked disdainfully at all directions. The aura exuding from his body made everyone feel suffocated. This man had suppressed the group of people from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce with just his aura alone, even causing them some internal injuries. However, his attention was not focused on Gao Hong and the others but instead on the room where Yang Kai was located. Origin King Realm. Gao Hong's beautiful face turned pale as she exclaimed. The other party's aura was not concealed and was clearly an Origin King. This discovery made her heart sink as she realized that the Chamber of Commerce was probably doomed this time. Ah! A scream rang out as Bai Zhengchu flew out of the room like a ragged sack, his face swollen and bruised, looking even worse than Xia Jingwu and Yao Qing. His face was swollen like a pig's head, making him look quite comical. You piece of trash, how dare you disturb this king's cultivation? You deserve to die. Yang Kai's dissatisfied and arrogant voice came from inside the room. Although Bai Zhengchu had been beaten miserably, his life was not in any danger. After hearing Yang Kai's words, Bai Zhengchu shuddered and hurriedly got up from the ground, but just as he was about to flee, a cold snort came from the sky. Bai Zhengchu stiffened and looked up, just in time to see the general-looking cultivator glaring at him coldly with a dissatisfied look on his face. Bai Zhengchu's expression changed drastically, but soon became overjoyed as he rushed over to this man and shouted, "Commander Master, this lowly one greets Commander Master, this lowly one asks Commander Master to uphold justice for this lowly one. There is a bastard in this room who dared to injure people at the city gate." This lowly one heard the news and wanted to teach him a lesson, but not only did he refuse to cooperate, he even attacked again. This lowly one is not your opponent. This lowly one asks Master to uphold the name of my Purple Star City. Understood. The general-looking cultivator coldly snorted and waved his hand. All of you withdraw, this person is an Origin King. Naturally, you are not his opponent. Origin King. Bai Zhengchu bit his tongue as a look of horror filled his face. Although he had already guessed this, when he heard the Commander Master say it himself, he still felt a lingering fear. He had just exchanged blows with an Origin King. Furthermore, he was able to escape unscathed and didn't perish. Thinking so, he could not help feeling a little smug. Hua Yang's a Origin King's Origin King of Five's Eyes. He doesn't look that old, does he? She remembered that she had stood up for him at the city gate. Hua Yumeng could not help blushing slightly. She was already an Origin King Realm Master. To think that she had eyes but failed to see and spoke up for him, standing up for him, if he hadn't intervened at that time. With his cultivation, the city gate guards and Deacon Minute might not have dared to provoke him. After all, an Origin King was a powerful master no matter where they went. Purple Star would not offend one for nothing. On the contrary, because she had overestimated herself, things had become more troublesome. Considering all this, Hua Yumeng was embarrassed. On the other hand, Gao Hong looked towards the room with excitement and expectation. She knew that whether the Chamber of Commerce could escape this calamity this time would depend on whether the methods of the person in the room were strong enough. Her original plan was to lead Bai Zhengchu and the others to Yang Kai and use Yang Kai to deal with them. Yang Kai could injure Deacon Minute in one move, so his strength was obviously not low. Bai Zhengchu was also a third-order Origin returning realm master like Deacon Minute, so since Yang Kai could injure Deacon Minute, dealing with Bai Zhengchu should not be a problem. If these two sides fought, no matter who won, it would be an opportunity for them to escape. Therefore, she had revealed Kai Yang's identity, and on the way here, she had secretly sent a signal to Xia Jingwu. Xia Jingwu had also understood. Unfortunately, although her plan was not bad, another powerhouse appeared out of nowhere and cut off their hopes of escaping. This person, Gao Hong, quietly looked at the cultivator dressed as a general, and combined with the way Bai Zhengchu addressed him just now, she suddenly understood the other party's identity. Purple Star City Guard Commander, Lu Tianfeng. Finally, a slightly decent guy has come. Inside the room, Yang Kai still spoke in a haughty tone, as if he did not put Lu Tianfeng in his eyes at all. Hearing this, a trace of displeasure flashed across Lu Tianfeng's face as he coldly snorted, "Slightly decent. Your Excellency's tone is not small. Whether it's small or not, you'll know once you try," Yang Kai grinned meaningfully. Who is this friend, and why are you acting like this in my Purple Star City? Lu Tianfeng frowned but unexpectedly did not get angry and instead asked cautiously. The other party being able to cultivate to the Origin King realm was obviously not a fool. Since he knew this was Purple Star City and still dared to act presumptuously without taking him seriously, he undoubtedly had great strength or a strong background. As the guard commander, how could Lu Tianfeng not realize this? As such, his demeanor could not help becoming vigilant. If you want to know who I am, get down here and talk to me. Aren't you tired standing so high up? Lu Tianfeng's face became cold. Is your excellency trying to provoke this, Lu? What? Does Commander Lu not have the courage? Nonsense. Lu Tianfeng laughed loudly. Do you think this commander can't see through such childish tricks? But, since you're so fearless, this commander really wants to see what kind of god you are. If you're some kind of blind monster, hey, then don't blame me for being impolite. Saying so, he brandished the long spear in his hand and his whole body exuded a monstrous aura as he walked down step by step. Everyone held their breath, not daring to even breathe loudly as they stared at the approaching storm. After all, this was a conflict between two Origin Kings. Who had ever witnessed such a thing before? Not long after, Lu Tianfeng arrived in front of the door. He was also skilled and bold, and directly pushed the door open and entered. With a creak, the door closed again. The inside of the room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop outside. There was no sound of fighting, not even the sound of argument. The atmosphere was quite strange, and the heavy atmosphere made it so that everyone could almost hear their own heartbeats. Bai Zhengchu even perked up his ears and listened carefully, trying to hear what was going on. The people from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce all looked at each other blankly, somewhat unable to understand the current situation. After the time it would take to drink a cup of tea, the door was opened again. Lu Tianfeng stepped out with a dignified expression, and under everyone's watchful eyes, he turned around and carefully closed the door again, bowing at the same time. Since that's the case, sir, please rest early. This one will come to visit sir tomorrow. No need. This king prefers some peace and quiet. Yang Kai's voice came from inside the room. Yes. Lu Tianfeng replied respectfully. Good, you can withdraw for now. By the way, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce's backyard was destroyed by your subordinates. Master may rest assured, this one will give you a satisfactory explanation, Lu Tianfeng quickly said. They were also injured. This one will deal with them seriously. Very good. No more sounds came from inside the room as Lu Tianfeng turned around with a solemn expression. Everyone's jaws dropped as a look of disbelief filled their faces. What kind of situation is this? The famous guard commander Lu Tianfeng of Purple Star City, the master of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, was actually so respectful and obedient to the person inside the room. Just what was this person's background? The people from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce could barely think straight. The burly bald man, Yarrow Qing, rubbed his eyes desperately, wondering if he was hallucinating because of his injuries. Commander. Lord Commander. Bai Zhengchu hurriedly bowed and greeted him. Lu Tianfeng stared at him coldly, causing Bai Zhengchu's head to shrink as he realized that the situation was not good. I'll deal with you later. Lu Tianfeng grit his teeth and coldly snorted. Bai Zhengchu's head buzzed as he was completely stunned. Dare I ask, who is in charge of this place? Lu Tianfeng turned around and put on an amiable smile as he cupped his fists towards Jiao Hong and the others, his smile faintly filled with flattery. Everyone from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce felt like their heads were about to explode as all of them froze in place, unable to react. It wasn't until Lu Tianfeng patiently asked again that Jiao Hong's tender body shook and she put down Hua Yumeng, who had been holding her in her arms, and allowed the latter to lean on her shoulder. This is our Chamber of Commerce's president. What advice does Commander Lu have for us? Master wouldn't dare. Lu Tianfeng rubbed his hands, the long spear artifact he had been holding in his hand being withdrawn at some point. Looking at Hua Yumeng with a smile, he asked in a low voice, Dare I ask how I should address this lady? Hua Yumeng replied softly, This mistress is Hua Yumeng. Commander Master can call me by my name. Please forgive this mistress, but this mistress is currently unable to salute you properly. So it is President Hua. I have long heard of your great name. Lu Tianfeng had a surprised expression on his face, as if he had really heard of Hua Yumeng's name, causing the latter to feel dizzy. Lu Tianfeng, however, did not notice this at all and continued to smile. President Hua's, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Bai Zhengchu quickly reminded from the side. This Lu has also heard a lot about President Hua's Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Honest business, honest to all, truly a model for all chambers of commerce. Seeing it today, it really lives up to its reputation, ha ha ha. A series of compliments, as if they did not cost money, caused Hua Yumeng's face to blush. The expressions of Gao Hong and the others were also extremely unnatural. What kind of situation was their chamber of commerce? Naturally, they were very clear about it. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was alone and did not have many cultivators. If there were not 10,000 such chambers of commerce in Purple Star City, there were at least 8,000. What kind of character was Lu Tianfeng? That was a high and mighty guard commander. How could he have such a clear understanding of the Chamber of Commerce's situation? When the big hat of the model of the Chamber of Commerce was placed on everyone's head, they felt a heavy pressure, almost unable to raise their necks. However, everyone knew that the change in Lu Tianfeng's attitude was related to the young man in the room. Chapter 1845. In the backyard of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Hua Yumeng, Gao Hong, and the others were shocked. Compared with Lu Tianfeng's groveling, they were more concerned about Yang Kai's identity and why Purple Star City's Commander Master's attitude had changed so drastically after only seeing him for a short while. They didn't hear a single word of Lu Tianfeng's flattery. They only felt their heads buzzing. There was a misunderstanding just now. This Lu's foolish subordinates seemed to have heard some rumors from somewhere and mistakenly thought that there were troublemakers here, so they came to arrest them without any reason, causing various degrees of damage to your Chamber of Commerce's personnel and property. Rest assured, President Hua, since this Lu is the guard commander, this Lu will definitely not tolerate sand in my eyes. This Lu will definitely deal with this matter seriously and give President Hua a satisfactory explanation. Lu Tianfeng's expression was solemn as he patted his chest and promised. Hua Yumeng forced a smile. This matter is not entirely Vice Commander Bai's fault. We also have some responsibility. Hearing what she said, Bai Zhengchu's eyes filled with tears as he stared at Hua Yumeng eagerly, a look of gratitude on his face. Is that so? Lu Tianfeng raised his brow as he carefully glanced towards the room and said unhurriedly, since President Hua is so reasonable. A cold snort immediately came from inside the room. Lu Tianfeng's expression became serious as he snapped, even if President Hua is so reasonable, they have made a mistake and should be punished. As a member of Purple Star City's guards, if they can't strictly abide by the law, what kind of guards are they? If they rush in to smash and injure people over trivial matters, how can the thousands of chambers of commerce in Purple Star City continue to operate? Vice Commander Bai. What do you say? How could Bai Zhengchu not know that he had kicked an iron plate this time? Stepping forward with a sullen face, he bowed and said, Subordinate has failed this time and asks Commander Master to punish him. President Hua, please be magnanimous and not offend this Bai. Hua Yumeng quickly stepped aside and said she didn't dare. Lu Tianfeng said righteously, you have eyes but fail to see, offending President Hua and Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. This Lu will punish you by sending you to the frozen cell for a month. Do you accept? Frost cell. Bai Zhengchu shuddered, his face pale. Earlier, he had said that he would throw Xia Jingwu and the others into the frost prison. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, this fate would be imposed on him? As one of the 8 vice commanders, how could he not understand how terrifying Frost Cell was? That place was naturally frozen. No matter how high one's cultivation was, once one was locked in there, they would die. Even their Saint Chi would be frozen. In other words, after entering the Frost Cell, one could only rely on one's physical strength to resist the bone-chilling cold. But without the protection of Saint Chi, how many cultivator could withstand it? 1 month's time. This was simply the time leading to the gates of hell. Lu Tianfeng glared at him when he didn't answer. We're convinced. Bai Zhengchu's neck shrank as he nodded repeatedly. It's good that you're convinced. This is just a punishment for beating people up and destroying 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce's buildings. How about this? Hand over your space rings. With Lu Tianfeng saying so, who would dare to resist in the slightest? Like their parents had just died, all of them took off their space rings and handed them over to Lu Tianfeng. Lu Tianfeng chuckled and handed a handful of rings to Hua Yumeng, saying, President Hua, I ask President Hua to be magnanimous and not lower yourself to the level of these fools. These are their compensation for your treatment. Master Lu. Hua Yumeng was completely dumbfounded. Facing this dazzling array of space rings, she didn't know whether to accept them or not, so she was at a loss for what to do. President Hua, please don't refuse. Lu Tianfeng's expression was dignified as he looked at Hua Yumeng pleadingly. The person in the room was still watching him, so if this matter wasn't handled properly, he would likely lose his position as guard commander. Xie Jingwu stepped forward at this moment, chuckled, and cupped his fists to Lu Tianfeng. Since Commander Lu is personally upholding justice, 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce will naturally cooperate fully. Many thanks, Commander Lu. Commander Master's righteousness is truly admirable. Good, good. Lu Tianfeng took the opportunity to shove a handful of space rings into Hua Yumeng's hands before quietly wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, thinking that this matter was finally over. Although it wasn't perfect, he had at least made his position clear. What are you still standing here for? Hurry up and go to Frozen Prison to receive your punishment. Lu Tianfeng yelled at Bai Zhengchu and the others. Yes, yes. Bai Zhengchu and the others scattered like birds and beasts, fleeing from this hellish place that made them tremble in fear. After all his subordinates disappeared, Lu Tianfeng turned around, cupped his fists towards the room, and said with a smile, Master, are you satisfied with this matter? Soon, Yang Kai's voice came from inside the room. Commander Lu must be joking. Maintaining the peace of the city, rewarding the good and punishing the evil is the responsibility of a commander. What does this have to do with this king? Upon hearing this, Lu Tianfeng breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the other party would not pursue today's matter. Bowing slightly, he said, Master's teachings are correct. Then this Lu will take his leave. Have a good rest, Master. After saying so, he nodded to Hua Yumeng and the others in a friendly manner before walking out. Hua Yumeng, Jiao Hong, Xie Jingwu, Yarou Qing, Hai Tang, and the others still stood in place stupidly, each of their expressions extremely strange. Recalling what had just happened in front of them, all of them felt unreal, as if they were in a dream. After a long time, Hua Yumeng let out a muffled snort and spat out a breath that was mixed with a wisp of pink mist. It was Hua Yu Qi Lin who had been forced out of her body. President, are you all right? Jiao Hong looked at her quickly and asked. Hua Yumeng shook her head. In the conflict with Bai Zhengchu and the others just now, she had been the safest. The others had all suffered varying degrees of injuries. President, we should now. Jiao Hong glanced in the direction of Yang Kai. Hua Yumeng slowly shook her head and said, Uncle Xia, go close the door of the shop and close it for the next 5 days. Let the brothers rest for a few days. If any of them are injured, pay them enough for treatment. As for these rings, I'll leave them to you, Uncle Xia. Yes, Xie Jingwu answered as he took the rings. Yarou Qing, Hai Tang, you two go help, Hua Yumeng shouted to the side. Hai Tang heard this and followed out obediently. Yarou Qing, on the other hand, stared at the room angrily and said angrily, what do you want? Jiao Hong glared at him and interrupted him. Get the hell out of here. Yarou Qing could not help rolling his eyes as he muttered something under his breath before leaving angrily. In the blink of an eye, only Jiao Hong and Hua Yumeng remained. The two women looked at each other and saw the hesitation in each other's eyes, the two of them exchanging divine sense messages as if they were communicating. After a while, Hua Yumeng sighed and said, Many thanks for Master's help today. President Hua is too polite, it was only a small matter. Yang Kai smiled lightly. He heard a little awe and coldness in Hua Yumeng's tone, but this was expected, so he didn't care too much. Today's work is tiring, so this mistress won't disturb Master's rest. Tomorrow, this mistress will come to see Master again, Hua Yumeng said softly. It's fine, President Hua can go about her business, I'll help myself. Hua Yumeng nodded, winked at Jiao Hong, and the two women withdrew one after another. Inside the room, Yang Kai had a helpless smile on his face as he played with a token in his hand and muttered to himself, I didn't expect this thing to be so useful. Even someone like Lu Tianfeng acted like a mouse seeing a cat when he saw it. Lu Tianfeng was a first-order origin king cultivator, so even if Yang Kai could subdue him with force, there was no need for him to act so respectfully. All of this was because of this token. Of course, this is my Purple Star Venerable Token. The holder of this venerable token has a status equal to my Purple Star's 3 great elders. Lu Tianfeng is just a guard commander, so how could he dare act presumptuously in front of the holder of this venerable token? A voice came from the side. It was Zidong. At this moment, his soul body had appeared above the soul-sustaining bowl and was placed aside by Yang Kai. How many of these venerable tokens have your Purple Star issued? Yang Kai asked. Zidong thought for a while before replying, as far as I know, only 2 have been issued, both of which were held by second-order origin kings. This venerable token represents not only status but also the ability to mobilize the resources and personnel of my Purple Star to a certain extent, so only those who have made great contributions to my Purple Star will receive it. So that's how it is, Yang Kai nodded lightly, understanding the preciousness of this venerable token. This thing was something he had found in Zilong's space ring. Although the materials used to forge it were rare, Yang Kai hadn't taken them seriously until today. He had no other choice. His original plan was to secretly steal the Star Emperor token and leave Purple Star, but after the incident with Hua Yumeng and 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, he could no longer proceed according to his original plan. Although he wasn't afraid of Lu Tianfeng's arrival, this was Purple Star City after all. If he really fought with Lu Tianfeng, it would only attract stronger opponents. As such, Yang Kai asked Zidong how to deal with the current situation. Zidong strongly recommended that he use this venerable token. After giving it a try, it really worked. Lu Tianfeng had come aggressively and left humbly, and without Yang Kai's help, today's matter was perfectly resolved. However, this way, Purple Star would immediately pay attention to him, which would make it more difficult for him to steal the Star Emperor token. Yang Kai secretly felt a headache coming on. Now, he could only take one step at a time. Considering all this, Yang Kai turned to Zidong and said, Tell me about the situation in Purple Star, what kind of masters there are, and if there are any internal disputes. Although Zidong was very reluctant, his soul was in Yang Kai's hands, so he didn't dare to resist, so he obediently explained to Yang Kai many things about Purple Star. Yang Kai took note of this information because there was no telling when it would come in handy. Whenever he encountered a critical situation, he would ask about it. Zidong also told him everything he knew. Chapter 1846. The next day, early in the morning, Hua Yumeng arrived outside the room as promised, holding a tray with a few strings of spirit fruits in her hand. These spirit fruits were obviously not ordinary at first glance as they exuded a rich aura and a refreshing fragrance. Obviously, they were treasures that would provide great benefits to any cultivator who consumed them. She stood outside the door and was hesitating about what to say when the door opened on its own. Yang Kai was sitting cross-legged on the opposite side of the door, smiling at her. This mistress greets master. Hua Yumeng quickly bowed respectfully. President Hua is too polite. Please come in, Yang Kai gestured. Excuse me. Hua Yumeng said as she stepped in, put down the tray in her hand, and said, This place is simple, so this mistress has prepared some food for master. I hope master does not dislike them. Flowing jade blood fruit. Yang Kai glanced at the string of purple crystal grape-like fruits on the tray and was slightly surprised, nodding as he said, President Hua has worked hard. As long as master likes them, Hua Yumeng stood aside carefully, looking a little restrained and uneasy. After all, even now, she still had not figured out the background of this young man, his identity, or why even a great master like Lu Tianfeng was so wary of him. If yesterday's incident had occurred in any other chamber of commerce, it would have been a disaster, but here, not only was 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce safe and sound, it had even received a large amount of compensation, and even Lu Tianfeng had personally apologized. What made Hua Yu-meng most confused was that she did not even know the other party's name. President Hua, please take a seat, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Yang Kai looked at her with a smile. In front of Master, this mistress does not dare act presumptuously. Hua Yu-meng pursed her red lips and squeezed out a smile uneasily, insisting on standing in place. Yang Kai rubbed his forehead. After thinking about it for a while, he said solemnly, President Hua, are you blaming this one? Hua Yu-meng's pretty face changed and she quickly waved her hand. Why would Master say that? Yesterday, if not for Master turning the tide, my Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would have been destroyed, and all my brothers and sisters would not have escaped death. Master, this mistress is grateful to you for saving my life. How could I dare to blame you? He, I hid my strength and identity. I came here for no reason and even caused such a disaster for you. Does President Hua not have any complaints? Hua Yu-meng frowned slightly. It seemed that Yang Kai had hit the nail on the head, and he was somewhat speechless. Not only President Hua, I'm afraid that even those friends of yours have some opinions about me, right? It's just that I don't dare to show it. Yang Kai laughed. As she spoke, she seemed to have mustered up a bit of courage. He said clearly, we are indeed grateful to the Master for what happened yesterday. It's just that we don't dare to experience that kind of thing again. As for this mistress, her knowledge is shallow and she really can't think of anything in my Five Paths Chamber of Commerce that could attract Master's attention. With Master's identity and strength, I'm sure you can go anywhere in Purple Star City, right? Indeed. Yang Kai nodded, but if I had left yesterday, you would have definitely suffered a calamity, so I chose to stay. President Hua acted to help me at the city gate entrance, so naturally, I couldn't just walk away. Hua Yu-meng was startled and nodded lightly. Yang Kai smiled, let me introduce myself again. This one is Yang Kai, and hiding my strength was just a matter of convenience. After all, I can't just go everywhere and shout that I'm an origin king, right? That would be too arrogant. As for my identity, it's not convenient for me to say too much. I hope President Hua can understand. Hua Yu-meng said, Sir must have some unspeakable difficulties. That's right. However, you don't need to worry too much about it. My identity yesterday can't be real, so just treat me as an ordinary origin king. Hua Yu-meng frowned, a little confused, but seeing Yang Kai's sincere look, she didn't think too much about it. After all, with his strength, there was no reason for him to deceive her, so she simply said seriously, this mistress has misunderstood Master. I hope Master won't take offense. Don't call me Master, I'm not used to it. I just want President Hua to know that I have no other intentions in coming here. It was just a coincidence and have no ulterior motives towards your Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Yang Kai looked at Hua Yu-meng sincerely. This mistress believes you. Seeing him so sincere, Hua Yu-meng naturally believed him and hesitated. But if I don't call you Master, how should this mistress call you? Senior. Yang Kai lightly coughed. Just a name is fine. This mistress wouldn't dare. Hua Yu-meng waved her hands quickly. Forget it, do as you wish. Yang Kai didn't want to be entangled in this issue any longer, so he stretched out his hand and pushed the fruit platter back, saying, this exquisite jade blood fruit is of no use to me, it's just a refreshing taste, but President Hua, if you eat it, it will help you refine your Saint Chi, so take it back. Hua Yu-meng's face lit up as she looked at Yang Kai gratefully and said, many thanks, Master. This platter of spirit fruits was something she had purchased at a high price and was extremely rare. If it weren't for her scruples about Yang Kai's identity and strength, Hua Yu-meng would never have done this. She was a diligent president, so there was no way she would be so wasteful. Ian, someone is looking for you outside. Yang Kai's expression changed as he glanced outside. Hua Yu-meng looked back and found that there was no one outside the door. Just as she was about to ask, she suddenly saw a figure hurrying over. It was Gao Hong. There was a look of pleasant surprise on Gao Hong's face, as if something good had happened. Master, please wait a moment, this mistress will be back soon, Hua Yu-meng said before quickly retreating. Outside, as soon as she met with Gao Hong, the two women whispered something to each other. A moment later, Hua Yu-meng looked surprised and asked anxiously, really? Gao Hong nodded seriously. Hua Yu-meng was pleasantly surprised and said, Come out with me to have a look." Saying so, she hurriedly walked out. A moment later, inside Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Hua Yumeng appeared neatly dressed. At this moment, Xia Jingwu was inside the shop. Haitang, Yarou Qing, and the others were all waiting quietly. Other than them, there was also a group of warriors in armor. Under the leadership of a white-faced man, they were standing in the shop, waiting solemnly. Seeing their attire, it was obvious they were the guards of Purple Star City, the same as Bai Zhengqiu and Lu Tianfeng from yesterday. After seeing Hua Yumeng, the leading white-faced man quickly cupped his fists and said respectfully, "It seems this is the famous president of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Hua Yumeng." Hua Yumeng was taken aback and quickly returned the courtesy. This mistress wouldn't dare. This mistress, Hua Yumeng, greets this master. President Hua is too polite, the burly white-faced man said politely. "Allow me to introduce myself. This one is Vice Commander Chu Zheng of Purple Star City. I have long heard of Commander Chu's name, but may I ask why Commander Chu has come to my Chamber of Commerce today?" Although she had obtained some information from Jiao Hong just now, she was not certain, so Hua Yumeng still asked. "This Chu has come this time. He has been ordered by Master Lu to come. Please hand these things over to President Hua." Saying so, he took out a jade box from his space ring. Respectfully, he handed it over. Hua Yumeng wore a solemn expression as she reached out and took the jade box. Opening the jade box, she took a look inside. Inside, there were many neatly arranged animal skins. Pulling one out, Hua Yumeng immediately exclaimed, "Land deeds." "What?" Xia Jingwu and the others were also shocked. Even Jiao Hong's mouth dropped open. Although this Chu Zhang had said he had something good to give to Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, he had not explained what it was. After seeing the land deeds at this moment, everyone finally understood. So many land deeds. Hua Yumeng was completely dumbfounded as she took out the land deeds one by one. There were more than 30 of them, each of which represented the ownership of a shop. Haha, President Hua must be joking. These land deeds include all the shops on Soaring Dragon Avenue where Five Paths Chamber of Commerce is located, Chu Zheng explained with a smile. Master Lu said that although Five Paths Chamber of Commerce is small, it has always operated with integrity and has made great contributions to the development of Purple Star City. It is a model for thousands of merchants, so these land deeds are specially given to you as a reward. He hopes that all merchants will take your Chamber of Commerce as an example and follow suit. This. Hua Yumeng's tender body trembled slightly, unable to believe this was true. She only felt that the land deeds in her hands were so heavy that they almost crushed her. "President Hua, please do not refuse." Chu Zheng stretched out his hand and interrupted her, solemnly saying, "This Chu is also here under orders. If President Hua refuses, then this Chu will not be able to report back and will instead be thrown into the frozen prison as punishment. I have long heard that President Hua is a kind-hearted and warm-hearted person who loves to help others, so please do not make things difficult for this Chu." Hua Yumeng looked at Chu Zheng, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Chu Zheng immediately took advantage of this opportunity and said with a smile, "In that case, President Hua will accept, and this Chu can return with peace of mind. What should we do?" Even though Hua Yumeng was usually bold and wise, at this moment, her head was filled with confusion and she did not know how to deal with the scene in front of her. After being stunned for a while, she said, "Uncle Xia, quickly prepare some gifts. Master has worked hard." She also knew that since the other party had put it this way, it was impossible for her to return the deeds. Uncle Xia nodded and hurriedly began to prepare. Chu Zheng, on the other hand, was taken aback and said in amazement, "President Hua, please do not act like this. We are just doing our duty. How could we dare accept benefits? President Hua's words are too much for us to accept." The other guards also went pale, as if the gifts prepared by Xia Jingwu were some kind of scourge that they could not avoid. Chu Zheng stood in place anxiously, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead as he glanced in the direction of the Chamber of Commerce's backyard from time to time. After a while, he heard a voice in his ear, "Good, go back and tell Lu Tianfeng that he has handled this matter very well. This king is very satisfied." Chu Zheng felt as if he had been granted amnesty and cupped his fists in that direction. bowing, "Many thanks, master." Saying so, he quickly retreated and said to Hua Yumeng, "This one will take his leave. President Hua, please wait a moment." As soon as his voice fell, he had already fled, leaving only his back visible in the distance. Chapter 1847. Inside Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, a group of people looked at each other, still in shock and confusion, but more than that, they were pleasantly surprised. "President, do these land deeds really cover all the shops on Soaring Dragon Avenue?" Gao Hong asked in a trembling voice. If this was the case, then the value of this box of land deeds was simply immeasurable. Under the leadership of Hua Yumeng, the people of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce had worked hard for more than 20 years to buy a small shop on Soaring Dragon Avenue. Moreover, they did not own it, only operating it for 30 years. Not only did they have to pay a lot of rent every year, but once the time was up, Purple Star City would take it back. But now, an entire box of more than 30 land deeds was in Hua Yumeng's hands. This meant that there were more than 30 shops, and all of them were connected together across the entire street. Any merchant could see huge benefits from this. Gao Hong and the others were so happy they almost fainted. Hua Yumeng also trembled as she checked the box again, looked up at the people who had been paying attention to her, and said bitterly, "It's real, ha 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 ha, now our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce can't not develop." Yarrow Ching patted his bald head vigorously, seemingly unable to calm down because of his excitement, his eyes flashing a terrifying light as he imagined the future. "I've been unhappy with the Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce next door for a long time, always viciously competing with us. TMPH, let's see what they'll use to fight us now. I'll sweep them out the door. Oh right, there's also that Treasure Pill Hall. When I went there with Haitang last time, those bastards from Treasure Pill Hall actually looked down on us. Kicking us out was really infuriating. Now that the land deeds of Treasure Pill Hall are in our hands, I want to see if they still dare to kick us out. Haitang, come with me later to teach them a lesson." Haitang stood next to him and nodded vigorously, obviously holding a grudge over the last incident. Despicable people become rampant. Xia Jingwu glared at Yarrow Ching, who smiled awkwardly and scratched his head awkwardly. However, he did not dare to refute. In Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Hua Yumeng's prestige was the highest, followed by Xia Jingwu as the Chamber of Commerce's think tank. Sometimes, his words were more effective than Hua Yumeng's. "Uncle Xia, what do you think?" Hua Yumeng finally recovered from the huge shock. He hesitantly looked at Xia Jingwu. The latter stroked his beard. He didn't look too excited. Instead, he was frowning. After pondering for a long time, Yang Kai whispered to Hua Yumeng, "President, the key to this matter is still there." He gestured towards the inside of the room and continued, "Whether it was the attitude and compensation of Commander Liu and the others yesterday, or the land deeds today, none of this is the result of our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce's ability. Since the key is not us, President might as well chat with the key people, perhaps you can learn something." Hua Yumeng thought about it for a moment before gently nodding and saying, "Don't make a fuss about what happened today. The Chamber of Commerce will still be closed today. Everyone, go about your business." With that said, he hurriedly made his way to the backyard. After a while, she returned to the room where Yang Kai was. Yang Kai looked at her with a smile, obviously already aware of what had happened outside. Hua Yumeng didn't beat around the bush and directly took out the jade box and placed it on the table in front of Yang Kai. "Master, this thing is too precious for my Five Paths Chamber of Commerce to enjoy. If we insist on keeping it, I'm afraid it will only cause unnecessary trouble, so I ask Master to deal with it." After experiencing shock and excitement, Hua Yumeng gradually understood that Lu Tianfeng had sent this box of land deeds over because of Yang Kai. She didn't know much about Yang Kai. As long as Yang Kai was here, Lu Tianfeng's attitude towards Five Paths Chamber of Commerce might still be servile, but if the Chamber of Commerce lost Yang Kai's protection one day, these more than 30 land deeds would definitely become the start of a disaster. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring was a crime. In Purple Star City, even in the outer city, land deeds were extremely rare and could only be owned by powerful merchants. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was simply too small and wasn't qualified to occupy any of them. Would Yang Kai protect Five Paths Chamber of Commerce forever? Hua Yumeng felt that this was impossible. After all, the other party was an Origin King Realm Master. For him to help them was already a blessing, so how could they expect him to protect them for a long time? Yang Kai glanced at her thoughtfully and said, "Since they are for you, President Hua should accept them. These things are worthless to me, so I have no use for them." Hua Yumeng smiled bitterly, but Yang Kai stretched out his hand and interrupted her. "No buts, just accept them without worry. Don't think too much about it, I will bear all the consequences." Hua Yumeng looked at Yang Kai in a daze, seeming to understand something else from his words, and couldn't help saying gratefully, "Since Master says so, this mistress will offer her thanks to Master." Although her cultivation was good, she was still a businesswoman, so no businesswoman could refuse this box of land deeds. Yang Kai smiled and said, "But I want to know, how does President Hua intend to deal with these land deeds?" "Deal with them?" Hua Yumeng froze for a moment before saying, "I have always had a dream to hold the land deeds of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce in my own hands, but every inch of land in Purple Star City is worth a fortune, so land deeds are simply too expensive. Our original plan was to spend another 10 years to save enough Saint Crystals to buy these land deeds, then use this shop as a foundation to slowly develop from a small chamber of commerce to a big chamber of commerce. We don't expect to be on par with Heng Luo Chamber of Commerce, just that we won't be bullied everywhere we go." As she spoke, she also let go of her reservations and cautiousness. Her beautiful face was flushed with excitement, and she was as lovely as a young girl. "This is not only my personal dream, but also the dream of Uncle Xia, Sister Hong, Yarrow Qing, and Hai Tang. We have also been working hard for this dream. As a merchant, who doesn't want to have a stable home? Now, this dream has been achieved so easily. With these land deeds, I can expand Five Paths Chamber of Commerce by more than 10 times, hang a plaque with my Five Paths Chamber of Commerce's name on the entire Soaring Dragon Avenue, and sell our goods throughout Purple Star City." At the end of her speech, Hua Yumeng actually danced with joy, her beautiful eyes flashing with a strange brilliance, as if a beautiful picture of the future had unfolded in front of her, causing her to be unable to control herself for a long time. It wasn't until she noticed Yang Kai looking at her with a smile that Hua Yumeng wore an embarrassed expression, her face turning red and purple as she whispered, "I've made a fool of myself in front of Master. Everyone's dream is sacred, why would I make fun of you?" Yang Kai said seriously, "President Hua must have worked very hard these past few years, right? Not a few words. It's definitely been hard, but with all my brothers and sisters by my side, all hardships are nothing." Hua Yumeng smiled sweetly, causing Yang Kai to become slightly absent-minded. Seemingly aware of Yang Kai's strange gaze, Hua Yumeng quickly lowered her head, her heart pounding violently as she felt uneasy, lest Yang Kai take a fancy to her. However, on second thought, being taken in by such a young and promising Origin King did not seem to be a bad thing. Although she had not been in contact with him for long, Hua Yumeng believed that her ability to judge people was quite good. Yang Kai was very different from those arrogant Origin Kings. Not only was he approachable, but his appearance was also not bad, with a handsome body and a strong face. "What am I thinking about?" Hua Yumeng suddenly came back to her senses and wished she could find a hole to crawl into. President Hua's vision for the future is very comprehensive, but I wonder if you can listen to what I have to say. Yang Kai naturally did not know what Hua Yumeng was thinking and simply said, "Master is the benefactor of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. If you have something to say, just say it." Hua Yumeng forced herself to reply. "These land deeds, don't keep a single one, sell them all." Yang Kai quickly said. "Huh?" Hua Yumeng was taken aback, never having expected that Yang Kai would actually say this. If he really did so, the vision she had just conceived for the future would become nothing more than a bubble. All her dreams would be impossible to realize. "Do you believe in me?" Yang Kai looked at Hua Yumeng sincerely, staring straight into her eyes. Being stared at by this aggressive gaze, Hua Yumeng suddenly panicked, averted her gaze, and nodded subconsciously. This mistress naturally believes in Master. "That's good. It's not convenient for me to say the specific reasons, but you can't keep these land deeds, so it's best to sell them as soon as possible. One day, you will understand why I want you to do this." He had come to Purple Star City this time to steal the Star Emperor token, so there was bound to be some conflict with Purple Star. Although Lu Tianfeng had deliberately sent over so many land deeds because of the existence of the honored token, once Yang Kai's purpose was exposed, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would definitely be implicated. At that time, he would no longer be able to remain in Purple Star City and these land deeds would become worthless. It was better to sell them all now and gather a large number of Saint Crystals. As long as he had enough Saint Crystals, would he need to worry about the Chamber of Commerce not being able to develop? Although Hua Yumeng did not understand why Yang Kai wanted her to do this, after calming down and thinking about it, she vaguely realized something and could not help trembling as she nodded, "I understand." Yang Kai looked at her meaningfully and smiled slightly. "President Hua is a smart person. I'm just a woman, so I'm just following Master's instructions." "Ian, can I ask Master something?" "What is it?" Yang Kai asked curiously. "Can you accompany me out for a while?" "What for?" Yang Kai frowned. "It's like this." Hua Yumeng explained, "There are too many land deeds, and if we really want to sell them, my Five Paths Chamber of Commerce alone won't be able to sell them for a good price. On top of that, this mistress wants to hand over these land deeds to Clear Sky Auction House so they can promote the auction on our behalf. This way, we can maximize our profits." Chapter 1848. Auction them off. Yang Kai's eyes lit up. "Not bad idea. President Hua really has a talent for business. Master is making fun of me." Hua Yumeng blushed. No, I just admire you. Being able to come up with such a good idea in such a short time is not something an average person can do." "Does that mean Master agrees?" Hua Yumeng looked at Yang Kai in pleasant surprise. "Going out for a walk is also a good idea. I also want to see the riches of Purple Star City, so I'll have to trouble President Hua to be my guide." Yang Kai smiled lightly. Hua Yumeng quickly got up and said happily, "Master, please wait a moment, I'll be right back. After all, I need to inform Uncle Xia and the others about selling these land deeds." "Go, I'll wait for you outside." Yang Kai nodded. A moment later, Hua Yumeng walked out of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Regarding the sale of the more than 30 land deeds, everyone in the Chamber of Commerce had different attitudes. Some, like Hua Yumeng, wanted to keep all the land deeds for the Chamber of Commerce to grow. After all, this was a rare opportunity that no one wanted to miss. Others wanted to compromise by selling half and keeping the other half. This way, not only would they have enough shops, but they would also have enough Saint Crystals. However, in the end, everyone agreed with Hua Yumeng's decision and sold all the land deeds. Hua Yumeng looked around and saw Yang Kai squatting in front of a stall not far away, bargaining with the seller. Is this how an Origin King Realm Master buys things? Hua Yumeng suddenly felt strange and walked over. A moment later, the voices of Yang Kai and the seller reached her ears. "Brother, this purple copper sifting crystal is an excellent artifact refining material that I spent a great deal of effort to mine. If you use it to refine an artifact refining tool, you can definitely refine a Saint King grade high-rank artifact. Don't you think your asking price of 10,000 high-rank Saint Crystals is a bit excessive?" The seller shouted angrily. 10,000 isn't low." Yang Kai turned a blind eye and said with a smile. Fine, I'll give in. 80,000 Saint Crystals is a fixed price, consider it a gift. 10,000. 70,000, this is really my bottom line. I can't go any lower. 10,000. Can you stop teasing me? It's my bad luck to meet a guy like you who doesn't know what's good for him. Brother, I see that you're a man of striking appearance, so I'll give you face. 65,000. 60,000. 10,000. Motherfucker, did one of my enemies send you to mess with me? Believe it or not, I'll kill you in the blink of an eye. The seller's temper was completely suppressed by Yang Kai and he quickly pulled out a Saint King grade machete and pointed it at Yang Kai angrily, threatening to kill him if he dared to cause any more trouble. Yang Kai chuckled, quickly got up and scurried to the side. Lunatic. Seeing Yang Kai walk away, the seller put away his artifact and shouted fiercely at Yang Kai, "Don't let me see you again, or I'll beat you up every time I see you." Master. Hua Yumeng appeared beside Yang Kai with a gloomy face. What was that all about? She couldn't believe what she had just seen. An Origin King Realm Master actually haggled with a Saint King Realm cultivator for a few tens of thousands of Saint crystals, and in the end, not only did he fail to complete the transaction, he was even driven away. Was this really an Origin King? Was it really okay for the seller to act so arrogant? If he knew that he was facing an Origin King, what kind of expression would he have? I wanted to experience the local customs of Purple Star City while killing some time, Yang Kai explained with a smile. The temper of Purple Star City's cultivator is a bit grumpy. Hua Yumeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry, thinking that anyone who was teased like this would have a bad temper. Let's go to Clear Sky Auction House first to deal with the land deed, Yang Kai motioned, lead the way. Hua Yumeng responded and led the way obediently. Yang Kai took in the sights along the way, as if he was a country bumpkin who had never seen the world and had just arrived in a big city for the first time. Everything around him was new to him. Hua Yumeng was really a bit confused. Yang Kai's performance had completely subverted her understanding of Origin Kings. In her imagination, all Origin Kings should be like Lu Tianfeng, aloof and insufferably arrogant, but when Yang Kai mixed in with the crowd, he was no different from an ordinary cultivator, perhaps even worse than an ordinary cultivator. If she didn't know that he was an Origin King, Hua Yumeng wouldn't have believed this was true. After walking for a short while, Hua Yumeng arrived at a beast carriage company and hired a beast carriage. The carriage was pulled by two monster beasts that looked somewhat similar to horses. The interior of the carriage was spacious and peaceful, and Yang Kai and Hua Yumeng sat inside before the coachman cracked his whip and the carriage moved forward smoothly. These snow-treading monster beasts are all fifth-order monster beasts. Although they don't have much combat power, their speed is quite good, so Purple Star City has raised many of them to serve as a means of transportation for the cultivator. Flying is not allowed in the city, and the city is quite large, so these beast carriages are very popular, but the cost of using them is not low, a full 5,000 high-rank Saint crystals. Inside the carriage, Hua Yumeng explained to Yang Kai. Fifth-order monster beast. Yang Kai nodded. Purple Star is really generous. Although a fifth-order monster beast was not a big deal, if one wanted to fill the entire city with these beast carriages, they would need at least tens of thousands of them. This was not something an ordinary great force could cultivate, so Purple Star must have mastered some secrets to raising monster beasts in captivity. While talking to Hua Yumeng, Yang Kai suddenly frowned and looked up at the sky. Under his gaze, the roof of the beast carriage seemed to become invisible, unable to block his line of sight at all. What's wrong? Hua Yumeng saw his expression change and asked in surprise. Is fighting allowed in Purple Star City? Yang Kai asked rhetorically. Naturally not. Is there someone who doesn't have eyes and dares to act presumptuously here? Hua Yumeng was surprised. That's interesting. Yang Kai smiled faintly. Yang Kai smiled faintly, waving his hand as he spoke, and an invisible force field spread out from him, wrapping around the entire carriage. The next moment, a violent noise rang out in the sky, accompanied by several muffled groans. Hua Yumeng's face changed as she suddenly felt a little uneasy in her heart. Although she was not affected by the aftermath of the battle just now because of Yang Kai's protection, she was still a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator, so she immediately realized that there must have been an Origin King Realm Master involved. She finally understood why Yang Kai did what he did just now. He obviously wanted to prevent the monster beast pulling the beast carriage from being disturbed. Because after this battle, the cries of the other monster beast pulling the beast carriages were constantly heard, but the one she and Yang Kai were in was safe. This scene puzzled the driver of the beast carriage. However, this battle happened quickly and ended just as quickly. By the time Hua Yumeng released her divine sense to investigate, there was no one in the sky, only a starship suspended in the air that seemed to be slightly damaged. Chem? That's... Hua Yumeng's expression changed again as she quickly opened the curtain and looked up. A moment later, her face changed drastically and she hurriedly sat back down. What did you find? Yang Kai asked. Hua Yumeng looked at him and said, if I'm not mistaken, that starship belongs to Hengluo Chamber of Commerce. Hengluo Chamber of Commerce? Are you sure? Yang Kai was stunned. The symbol on that starship is definitely Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's. Hua Yu Meng nodded seriously. Yang Kai released his divine sense again to confirm and found that, as Hua Yu Meng said, there was indeed a special symbol on the damaged starship. He vaguely remembered seeing this symbol on the clothes of Shui Yu and Ni Guang. It really belongs to Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce? So, did Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's cultivator just have a conflict with Purple Star? After a moment of silence, Yang Kai asked, why would Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's starship come to Purple Star City? Hua Yu Meng pursed her lips and smiled. Although Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's forces are huge, in the end, it is still based on commerce. Wherever there is a cultivator in Purple Star's territory, there will be their business, so it's not strange for them to come to Purple Star City. However, I don't know why the two sides had a conflict, but that is not something this mistress can speculate on. Yang Kai gently nodded, paid attention to the starship again, and no longer paid it any attention. No matter what happened between these two forces, as long as it didn't affect his plans, he didn't care. The beast carriage continued to move forward smoothly, its speed like the wind. A short while later, they arrived in front of a huge auction house. After getting off the carriage, Hua Yu Meng pointed to the front and said, "This is Clear Sky Auction House, one of the 3 largest auction houses in the outer city. It has a lot of credibility and I heard that they will be holding an auction in 5 days. There will be many rare items up for auction." Yang Kai nodded gently, but after a moment, he turned his head and glanced at Hua Yu Meng. "President Hua, this is your first time here, so why are you a little nervous?" Hua Yu Meng smiled reluctantly. "It's not my first time here. In fact, I've been here a few times in the past. I wanted to buy something, but I rarely gained anything and the prices were too expensive for this mistress to afford. However, this is my first time putting something up for auction, so I don't know what to do later. I'm with you, don't be afraid." Yang Kai cast an encouraging look at her. Hearing Yang Kai say this, Hua Yu Meng calmed down immediately, thinking that she had an origin king by her side, and not an ordinary origin king at that. This was a master who even Lu Tianfeng had to treat with respect. Although Clear Sky Auction House's forces were not ordinary, if she came to put something up for auction, they wouldn't embarrass her, right? Moreover, wasn't the reason why she had pulled Yang Kai along because she wanted to use his identity as a deterrent? Otherwise, if a small 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce like her were to take out so many land deeds, it would only cause trouble. Considering all this, Hua Yu Meng calmed down and stepped forward. R.S. Chapter 1849. Inside Clear Sky Auction House, the hall was spacious and bright, bustling with people coming and going. As soon as Yang Kai entered with Hua Yu Meng, a young girl greeted them with a smile, bowed respectfully, and softly said, "Greetings, Master. May I ask if the two master have come to Clear Sky Auction House to reserve a seat for a few days from now or to submit an item for auction? Or do you have other important matters to attend to?" Yang Kai glanced at her. Under his powerful divine sense, this young girl's cultivation was immediately revealed. She was a first-order Saint King cultivator, and although her strength was not very high, it was not low either. Serving as a maidservant in this hall was a display of Clear Sky Auction House's grandeur. Throughout the hall, there were at least 80 people like this young girl. "We are here to submit an item for auction." Hua Yu Meng restored her usual calmness and smiled lightly. "May I ask how?" "So you're here to submit an item for auction." The young girl smiled sweetly. "It's like this, Master. Our auction house does not accept items worth less than 1,000,000 Saint crystals. If the value of the item, Master, is more than 1,000,000 Saint crystals, the requirements will be met. As for items worth more than 1,000,000 Saint crystals and less than 5,000,000 Saint crystals, this servant can handle them. If the value is more than 5,000,000 Saint crystals and less than 50,000,000 Saint crystals, this servant will not have this privilege and will need the help of other stewards." "What if it exceeds 50,000,000 Saint crystals?" Hua Yu Meng asked in a low voice. Although Hua Yu Meng did not know the exact value of the more than 30 land deeds, it was definitely more than 50,000,000 Saint crystals. The young girl's face changed slightly, but soon she smiled like a flower. "If that's the case, Steward of Clear Sky Auction House will personally handle this." Manager Lee of our auction house will personally receive you. Sirs, this way please. She also understood that the value of the items these two master wanted to auction was not something she and her steward could handle, so without hesitation, she led the two into the interior of the auction house. Her heart was also filled with joy. After all, in her line of work, if she really managed to close a deal with a guest, she would be rewarded handsomely. From beginning to end, Yang Kai did not say a single word and simply stood quietly behind Hua Yumeng like a guard, making the young girl feel that Hua Yumeng's background was not simple. She did not dare show the slightest neglect. Through the bustling hall, the three of them arrived at an extremely quiet courtyard. It was as if they had entered another world. The noise of the outside world instantly disappeared and was replaced by a small bridge and flowing water. The sound of stringed and woodwind instruments rang out. He couldn't help but feel relaxed and happy. After walking for a while on the winding gravel road, Zhong Ruiqiang and Zhong Ruiqiang finally stopped. The trio soon arrived in front of an oval-shaped arched door. The young woman took out a communication artifact from her space ring and poured her divine sense into it. A short while later, there was a flash of light on the arched door, which was a sign that the restriction had been lifted. The young girl then turned around and respectfully said, "Master, please come in. Someone will receive you. This servant will take her leave for now." With that, she turned around and left. Hua Yumeng and Yang Kai exchanged a glance before stepping through the arch and entering the courtyard. A woman who looked to be in her 40s walked towards them. She bowed and said, "Are the two guests here to auction something?" Hua Yumeng nodded and replied, "Please come with me." The woman turned around to lead the way, but the moment she turned around, she glanced suspiciously at Yang Kai, seemingly a little surprised. Yang Kai also smiled at her meaningfully, causing the woman's complexion to change slightly and her pace to become a little disordered. After walking for a while, the pair came to a stone pavilion where the fragrance of tea filled the air. A woman in a floral dress was brewing tea, her movements elegant and graceful. "Young lady, the guests have arrived," the woman walked over and said before standing aside and waiting. "Manager Lee?" Hua Yumeng asked with some surprise. She did not seem to have expected that the manager of this huge auction house would be a woman, and a stunning beauty at that. In terms of appearance and temperament, Hua Yumeng could not help but sigh. "Are you surprised, honored guest?" Manager Lee raised her head and glanced at Hua Yumeng, pursed her lips, and winked playfully at Hua Yumeng. "Why, does honored guest think I should be a man?" No. Hua Yumeng quickly waved her hand. "I was a little surprised, but I admire you even more." "Oh." Manager Lee glanced at Hua Yumeng in surprise, but immediately seemed to understand something and nodded. "It seems that honored guest is also the manager of a great force and has something in common with me. How could a small chamber of commerce dare compare with your esteemed house?" Hua Yumeng said modestly. Regardless of how big or small a force is, the manager bears the expectations and future of all her brothers and sisters. The burden on her shoulders is very heavy. Hua Yumeng nodded again and again. These two women, as soon as they met, seemed to have found a common topic to talk about, as if they were close friends. The woman next to her could not help coughing lightly. "Young lady, these two guests are here to auction something." "Ha ha." Manager Lee smiled apologetically. "My apologies. My heart was touched and I spoke from the bottom of my heart. Please take a seat." Hua Yumeng hesitated for a moment before taking a seat. Manager Lee was about to speak when she suddenly looked down at the jade pendant on her waist. In the next moment, she raised her head again and looked at Yang Kai solemnly. "Master, please forgive this humble woman's ignorance and offended master just now. I hope master will not take offense." "Oh." Yang Kai glanced at the jade pendant on Manager Lee's waist with a smile and said with some surprise, "This thing can sense my cultivation?" "My apologies, master," Manager Lee said softly. Manager Lee said softly, "This mistress has many people coming and going here every day, and there are always some masters who hide their cultivation like sir. This mistress is just an origin returning realm master and is unable to see through their depths, so this mistress deliberately created this artifact to avoid offending such a master. This mistress has no malicious intent." Yang Kai nodded gently. "I understand, But why are you acting so fearful? Without even mentioning that Clear Sky Auction House is a powerful force in Purple Star City, with this madam's protection, Manager Li shouldn't be afraid, right? Saying so, Yang Kai looked at the woman with a smile. The woman's face changed slightly as she whispered, "Your Excellency's strength is indeed profound. Not only did you manage to hide from this mistress' perception, you were also able to see through this mistress' depths. This mistress admires you greatly. Good, good." Yang Kai smiled lightly. When he first saw this woman, he noticed that she was a first-order origin king, but she seemed to have cultivated some kind of concealment technique, so he could not see any signs of an origin king from her. Only those whose cultivation surpassed hers would be able to see through her. Yang Kai was now a second-order origin king, and his divine sense was extremely powerful, comparable to that of a third-order master, so this woman's strength could not be hidden from him. For an auction house to have an origin king realm master, it seemed Clear Sky Auction House had quite the background. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere became inexplicably dignified. Manager Li chuckled, "Let's not pay attention to these minor details. I think everyone here has their own difficulties, so let's get down to business." With her interruption, the atmosphere immediately softened. "Ien, this mistress is Li Nuo. May I ask what two guests have come here to auction?" After Li Nuo introduced herself, she turned to Hua Yumeng and asked. "It's this," Hua Yumeng said as she took out the box containing the land deeds and placed it in front of Li Nuo. Li Nuo took the box suspiciously and examined it carefully, quickly discovering that although this box was precious, it was not a priceless treasure, so she immediately understood that it was just a box for storing things. Opening the box, the land deeds inside came into view. Li Nuo took them out and her beautiful eyes shrank as she exclaimed, "These are..." The woman's eyes swept over and she was also shocked. Land deeds. Could these be land deeds for Purple Star City? Ien, they are all land deeds for Purple Star City. Li Nuo carefully checked them one by one, the expression on her face becoming more and more dignified. "There are so many of them, and they're all on the same street." Hua Yumeng smiled slightly. "These land deeds include the entire Soaring Dragon Avenue." Li Nuo's tender body trembled. Even though she was used to seeing great winds and waves and had handled countless precious objects, she could not help being taken aback at this moment. Purple Star City's land deeds, one that included all the land deeds on the entire Soaring Dragon Avenue. Such a thing alone was already extremely valuable, not to mention all of them together. The value of these land deeds would at least double. Suddenly, Li Nuo seemed to think of something and looked at Hua Yumeng in amazement. "Elder sister, are you from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce?" Hua Yumeng asked in surprise. "Manager Li has also heard of our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce." She was quite surprised. After all, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was not a great force in Purple Star City. There were at least 8,000 existences like Five Paths Chamber of Commerce that struggled at the bottom of society. Clear Sky Auction House's strength was extraordinary, so how could it have heard of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce? "I've never heard of it before, but only recently." Li Nuo glanced over at Yang Kai meaningfully and said, "I heard that someone from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was bold enough to beat up Deacon Minute and a guard captain at the city gate, but not only did they emerge unscathed, Commander Lu Tianfeng even personally came to apologize to Master. As soon as elder sister took out these land deeds, junior sister knew that they were Commander Lu's apology. Only Commander Lu is qualified to transfer these things." News spread so quickly? Hua Yumeng frowned. "I'm afraid it's not that the news spread quickly, but rather that Clear Sky Auction House's means are quite good, right?" Yang Kai looked at Li Nuo with a smile. Li Nuo's pretty face blushed as she smiled awkwardly. When doing business in Purple Star City, one naturally has to be observant. "I've shown Master a joke. Ien, not many people know about this apology. Our Clear Sky Auction House is one of them, but what happened at the city gate yesterday, I'm afraid everyone in the city knows about it. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce's reputation will definitely soar this time. The entire city knows." Hua Yumeng's face turned pale. Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was a small force, but now it had suddenly become the focus of the entire city. This was likely a disaster, not a blessing. She could not help casting a pleading look at Yang Kai, but Yang Kai smiled lightly and motioned for her to calm down, allowing Hua Yumeng to calm down. Chapter 1850. Is elder sister sure you want to auction off all these land deeds? Li Nuo was a businesswoman, so now that business had come knocking on her door, she did not consider anything else and quickly entered the mood to ask Hua Yumeng. All of them. Hua Yumeng nodded. Although she already had her own plans, these things were only available to her because of Yang Kai's existence. Since Yang Kai suggested she sell them all, she naturally would not object. It's a pity. Li Nuo sighed. If you had kept them yourself, with elder sister's means, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would have become famous in less than 10 years. Manager Li is too kind, I don't have such ability. Hua Yumeng quickly waved her hand. Elder sister doesn't need to be so modest. Although Five Paths Chamber of Commerce is not famous today, with this master's help. Halfway through her words, she suddenly noticed a bitter smile on Hua Yumeng's face and immediately understood that Yang Kai would not stay in Five Paths Chamber of Commerce for long, so she quickly stopped and smiled. Good, since elder sister wants to sell all these land deeds, younger sister will naturally accept. However, younger sister would like to ask, does elder sister want to sell these land deeds separately or as a whole? Hua Yumeng frowned and fell into contemplation. As a businesswoman, she naturally knew the difference between selling land deeds separately and not. If they were sold separately, it was guaranteed that they would be easy to sell. After all, although each land deed was worth a lot, there would always be many chambers of commerce or great forces that could afford it. However, this way, there would not be the advantage of selling them as a whole. However, if they were auctioned as a whole, the more than 30 land deeds would be too expensive. The value was too great, and there weren't many forces that could buy it. But correspondingly, the value would increase a lot because of the land deed. Both methods had their own advantages and disadvantages, so it was difficult to say which was better. She cast her eyes to Yang Kai, wanting Yang Kai to give her an idea. Yang Kai smiled awkwardly. I can fight, but I don't know anything about this kind of thing, so it's better to listen to Manager Li's opinion. Hua Yumeng's eyes lit up as she stared at Li Nuo. Li Nuo pursed her lips and smiled. Since master is so generous, this young woman will act presumptuously. Elder sister. Younger sister's suggestion is to sell them as a whole. The starting price is 100 million Saint crystals. 100 million. Hua Yumeng's pretty face changed drastically as her voice trembled. She almost fainted from happiness, thinking of the 20 to 30 brothers of her Five Paths Chamber of Commerce who had worked hard for a year. The most he could earn was only 1 million Saint crystals. After deducting their respective cultivation expenses. There were also some chambers of commerce that were able to save up less than 200,000 for various expenses. To her, 100 million was simply inconceivable. Does elder sister think that this price is very high? Li Nuo smiled. Let's do some calculations. Although the Soaring Dragon Avenue isn't a prosperous area in Purple Star City's outer city, it's definitely not bad. In such a place, the price of the land deeds for a 15-meter shop is probably between 5 million and 8 million, which is already considered cheap. If it were in a more prosperous area, it would be impossible to obtain one without at least 20 million. On the Soaring Dragon Avenue, let's say that each shop is worth 6 million. If there are 30 shops, that would be 180 million. Moreover, these deeds are all linked together. It's extremely convenient for those big forces or big businesses to buy them as a whole. Therefore, the value will be increased by a few percent. I'll definitely come. Yang Kai smiled and nodded before putting away the invitations, immediately calling out to Hua Yumeng, who had not yet recovered, and leading her out. Aunt Chun escorted them all the way out of the auction house before returning. Young lady, why did you show so much goodwill to that person? Is it because of the second young master? Aunt Chun looked at Li Nuo, who had a worried look on her face, and asked. Why else would Aunt Chun think I took the initiative to reduce the fee by 3%? Those 3% represented nearly 10 million Saint crystals. Li Nuo smiled bitterly before sighing, but that person is very cautious and doesn't seem to appreciate it. Aunt Chun also sighed. At that time, Yang Kai had said, "On behalf of President Hua, I thank Sister Li for her kindness." From this sentence, Li Nuo and Aunt Chun knew that the other party was a cautious person and did not accept Li Nuo's kindness. Instead, he pushed Hua Yumeng forward, leaving Li Nuo helpless for a while. "I don't know what happened to second young master, but there was a fight in the sky just now. Did Aunt Chun sense it clearly?" Li Nuo looked at the woman and asked. "It ended too quickly." Aunt Chun shook her head. "I'm afraid that someone on second young master's side tried to escape Purple Star City but failed." "Ha!" Li Nuo sighed. "President is too cruel. Both of them are his own flesh and blood, yet he sent second young master to such a place while third young master enjoyed all the glory." "Young lady." Aunt Chun was taken aback and quickly winked at her. Li Nuo smiled lightly and said, "I know, Aunt Chun. There are no outsiders here, so I'm just complaining in front of you. We can't investigate the situation here too clearly, so we can't reveal ourselves rashly, so we can only rely on someone else. The master of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce is of unknown origin, but even Lu Tianfeng is afraid of him, so his strength and power must be quite high. I originally wanted to ask him to inquire about second young master's situation on my behalf, but now it seems that won't be possible." Aunt Chun frowned and said, "Young lady, don't worry. Although second young master sometimes acts rashly, the heavens help the worthy, so I'm afraid he will be fine. What's more, although Purple Star is powerful, they won't dare to move against our people. In particular, second young master's identity is different, so he won't be in any danger, but I'm afraid some physical pain will be inevitable. That's what I'm worried about. Second young master has been pampered all these years, so how could he possibly endure physical pain?" A trace of determination appeared on Aunt Chun's face as she said, "If young lady is still worried, let me ask Elder Peng." "Peng who?" Li Nuo frowned. "That person isn't a good thing. He's a lecher, Aunt Chun. Don't go looking for him. Rest assured, young lady." Aunt Chun smiled faintly. "Although that old thing Peng who is unscrupulous, it is precisely because of this that we have an opportunity. At worst, I'll just give him some benefits. His strength isn't as good as mine, so I won't suffer a loss." Saying so, Aunt Chun made up her mind and said, "Then it's settled, I'll go find him now." "Aunt Chun." Li Nuo's face stiffened, but in the next moment, Aunt Chun disappeared. Li Nuo suddenly became anxious and could only secretly pray that Aunt Chun would not really suffer a loss at Peng Hu's hands. Yang Kai and Hua Yumeng left Clear Sky Auction House, the latter still in a daze. Her cheeks were red and her excitement could not be calmed as the 100 million saint crystals constantly lingered in her mind. Occasionally glancing over at Yang Kai, her beautiful eyes filled with gratitude. If it weren't for this person, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce would have been razed yesterday, and all her brothers and sisters would have been killed. How could such a great thing have happened? At this moment, Hua Yumeng suddenly felt that she could rely on the other party. This feeling warmed her heart and made her somewhat infatuated. For so many years, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce had been led by her, and as Li Nuo said, everyone's future had been placed on her shoulders. The burden was really heavy, and it was not something her delicate body could bear. But this time, someone had become her backbone, allowing her to experience what it was like to rely on someone else. For a while, she was unable to extricate herself as she kept thinking about how good it would be if she could always rely on someone like this in the future. Chapter 1851. Isn't this President Hua? Just as Hua Yumeng was lost in thought, a voice suddenly came from the side. After hearing this voice, Hua Yumeng could not help frowning and turning her head to look in the direction of the voice. Not far away, a man who looked about 10 years old walked straight towards her, grinning as he walked, his eyes constantly sweeping back and forth over Hua Yumeng's sensitive parts. This man wore luxurious clothes and seemed to have a great background, but his pair of naturally slanted eyes gave him a sinister aura. Being stared at by him like this, Hua Yumeng suddenly felt uncomfortable. Behind this man, there were two origin-returning realm cultivator with indifferent looks on their faces. At first glance, it was obvious they were guards. Jiang Chao. Hua Yumeng's beautiful eyes could not help flashing a look of disgust and dread, but soon, she remembered that she was not alone now and had Yang Kai by her side, so she quickly regained her indifference. Haha, it's really a small world. To actually meet President Hua here, it must be fate. Jiang Chao did not seem to notice Hua Yumeng's repulsive posture and still had a warm look on his face. President Jiang must be joking. You and I are both presidents of the Chamber of Commerce. As the saying goes, peers are enemies. There is no fate between you and me, Hua Yumeng said indifferently. Hearing this blatant flirting, Hua Yumeng's pretty face could not help sinking as she shouted, President Jiang, please conduct yourself with dignity. Haha, why would I need to conduct myself with dignity in front of you? We will soon be a family, Jiang Chao laughed. By the way, what about the matter I told you half a year ago? This duke does not have the patience to continue waiting. Half a year ago, you suddenly left Purple Star City, making it impossible for me to find you. Now that we have met, you should give this duke an answer quickly. Hua Yumeng's face suddenly became ugly as she ground her teeth and glared at him. Jiang Chao sneered, President Hua. You should know. Your little chamber of commerce won't be able to achieve anything, so what can two kittens do? Why don't you merge with this duke's Saint Origin Chamber of Commerce? Under this duke's leadership, what need do you have to worry about not developing in the future? If it weren't for President Hua being a woman, shouldering such a heavy responsibility, do you think this guild would allow you to take advantage of it? This duke is someone who has tender feelings for the fairer sex. I can't bear to see a beauty suffer. President Jiang, I've already given you a clear answer last time. It is impossible for Five Paths Chamber of Commerce to merge with your Saint Origin Chamber of Commerce. Please give up and stop pestering me. After Hua Yumeng finished speaking, she grabbed Yang Kai and said, let's go. You want to fight here? Hua Yumeng exclaimed, this is Purple Star City. Ha. Jiang Chao sneered, so what if it's Purple Star City? Guild leader Hua, it seems that my previous friendliness has caused some misunderstanding. Have you forgotten my identity? Not to mention that this duke hasn't made a move yet, even if I did, so what? What's more, this duke heard that the people of your Five Paths Chamber of Commerce caused trouble at the city gate yesterday. Although I don't know why you are still safe and sound, if this duke captures you and hands you over to the guard army, he will be rewarded meritoriously. Hearing him talk about his identity, Hua Yumeng seemed to think of something and her pretty face couldn't help paling slightly as a look of dread appeared on her face. Seeing her hesitation, Jiang Chao sneered, President Hua, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. This duke doesn't have that much patience. If you give me a satisfactory answer now, we will still be family in the future. If not, Hua Yumeng looked helpless as she looked towards Yang Kai imploringly. Yang Kai sighed, knowing that he had no choice but to step forward and pat Hua Yumeng on the shoulder, signaling her to retreat behind him. Looking at Jiang Chao lightly, he chuckled, this friend, did you forget to bring something when you went out? Jiang Chao looked Yang Kai up and down from the corner of his eyes and said fiercely, where did this little punk come from? You dare talk to this duke like that? Seeing Hua Yumeng acting docile and respectful towards Yang Kai, Jiang Chao's heart was filled with anger, so he naturally wouldn't be polite. Daring to call yourself this duke in front of me, you really did forget to bring something when you went out, Yang Kai chuckled. Jiang Chao's expression became cold. Little one, tell me, what did this duke forget to bring? Yang Kai stretched out his hand and pointed forward, but before Jiang Chao could react, he was tapped on the forehead. Yang Kai smiled and said, friend, did you forget to bring your brain when you went out? Jiang Chao staggered back a few steps as a look of horror appeared on his face. He was a second-order origin returning realm cultivator, yet he was unable to resist being tapped on the forehead by this young man. It was obvious that this young man was much stronger than him. If this young man had really wanted to kill him just now, how could he have survived? Considering all this, Jiang Chao suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and became angry out of shame as he shouted, bastard, you dare insult me? Yang Kai laughed and said, if you brought your brain with you when you went out, how could you not understand why we are still safe today even though we beat someone at the city gate yesterday? What reason? Jiang Chao was confused by Yang Kai's words. It turns out that friend didn't bring his brain with him when he went out, but instead grew a pig's brain. Yang Kai showed a look of sudden realization. Poochie. Hua Yumeng, who was listening to the side, could not help laughing, but immediately felt that something was wrong and quickly covered her red lips with her small hand. Impudence. Jiang Chao was furious and his Saint Chi began to circulate involuntarily, as if he was about to fight with Yang Kai. The two cultivator who had been following behind him paled and quickly stepped forward to stop him. One of them seemed to realize something and whispered a few words into Jiang Chao's ear. Jiang Chao stiffened and shouted angrily, "Has a backer? Even if he has a backer, can it be greater than this duke's? This duke is a member of the Jiang family, and Purple Star's 8th elder is my Jiang family's granduncle. Who can have a stronger backer than me?" Yang Kai was stunned and glanced over at Hua Yumeng. Purple Star's 8th elder is a member of his Jiang family? Yes, Elder Jiang Changfeng is the most senior member of his Jiang family. Hua Yumeng nodded solemnly. Hua Yumeng nodded solemnly. It was precisely because of this that she was helpless to deal with Jiang Chao's entanglement. Although Jiang Chao and the 8th elder were separated by many generations and would only meet a few times a year, with such a background, Jiang Chao could still walk sideways in Purple Star City. Jiang Chao had designs on her 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce and Hua Yumeng, and if Hua Yumeng had not been avoiding him, it was likely he would have ended up in a miserable state. "Little, are you afraid now?" Jiang Chao looked at Yang Kai triumphantly. "Kneel down and admit your mistake now and this duke can spare your life. Otherwise what?" Yang Kai looked at Jiang Chao with a smile, not showing the slightest fear. "You've got guts, little brat." Jiang Chao's anger rose and he waved his hand. "Capture him." The two cultivators behind him hesitated for a moment. Although they knew that Yang Kai was not to be trifled with, since Jiang Chao had given them an order, they did not dare disobey. Both of them flickered and rushed towards Yang Kai from both sides. Both of them were origin-returning realm masters with extraordinary means. Although they had not been able to figure out Yang Kai's depths, they felt that if the two of them joined forces, he would not be able to resist. But what happened next surprised them greatly. Just as they rushed to Kai Yang's side, before they could even use their own methods, they saw Kai Yang grin at them and then send out 2 slaps to their left and right. His movements were casual and unrestrained, as if he was driving away a mosquito. However, these 2 palms caused the 2 cultivators to be drawn into a vortex of power that they could not break free from. "This is not good." The 2 cultivators shouted at the same time as they madly pushed their Saint Chi to resist, but in front of this vortex of power, their Saint Chi was as fragile as paper and shattered in an instant. 2 screams rang out as the 2 cultivator who had rushed over were sent flying, crashing into the walls of the shops on both sides of the street, creating large holes in them. In an instant, the nearby shops were filled with curses and many cultivator rushed out of the damaged shops, looking around, wondering who dared to hurt people in Purple Star City. Sigh. Jiang Chao was left standing in place, his eyes bulging as he sucked in a breath of cold air, feeling his lungs ache. Staring at Yang Kai in horror, he seemed to understand something and exclaimed, "Origin King Realm?" Although his 2 guards were not the top origin returning realm masters, they were definitely not bad, but the 2 of them had been sent flying with just 2 palms. Without the strength of an Origin King Realm Master, it was absolutely impossible to achieve such a feat. This unassuming guy who was less handsome than him and had been called a bastard by him turned out to be an Origin King Realm Master. The soles of Jiang Chao's feet were cramping as he stared at Yang Kai in horror, feeling that the smile on his face at this moment was incredibly terrifying. He wanted to escape, but to his horror, he found that he could not summon even a trace of Saint Chi or strength. His feet seemed to be fixed in place and he could only watch as Yang Kai walked towards him step by step. The aura of death washed over him, making Jiang Chao feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. "Who dares act presumptuously in Purple Star City?" An angry roar suddenly rang out and immediately afterwards, the figures of the guards flickered out of the crowd and surrounded Yang Kai and Jiang Chao in an instant, glaring at the 2 of them with unfriendly looks on their faces. Purple Star City has decreed that fighting and killing is strictly prohibited in the city. If anyone is found to have committed such a crime, their cultivation will be crippled and they will be thrown into the frozen prison, or they will be killed on the spot. Commander Master has repeatedly issued this order, but there is still someone who dares to ignore it. Good, good, good. Today, this Vice Commander will make you understand that those who dare to fight in Purple Star City, it turns out to be the Master. Chu Zhang greets the Master. Chapter 1852. The speed of Purple Star City's guard army was undoubtedly very fast. Yang Kai had just sent the 2/3 Order Origin returning realm cultivator flying when someone arrived at the scene in less than 5 breaths. What's more, this person was one of Purple Star City's 8 vice commanders, Chu Zhang. Hearing Chu Zhang's shout just now, all the onlookers felt that Yang Kai had gotten himself into big trouble this time and was definitely doomed. In Purple Star City, there were very few fights, so the guard army had nothing to do all day long. Whenever they encountered a dispute, they would have to deal with it as if it were a small matter, but today, someone dared to fight in the streets, so what good could come out of it? After hearing Chu Zheng's voice, Jiang Chao was so excited that his eyes burst into tears, like a young wife who had been wronged seeing her husband's family, eagerly staring in the direction Chu Zheng had come from, waiting for him to uphold justice for him. However, Chu Zheng's next attitude change made Jiang Chao suddenly have a bad feeling. Chu Zheng actually addressed that bastard as Lord and bowed to him as if he was trying to curry favor with him. What kind of background does this guy have? Jiang Chao was a little dumbfounded. So, it's Commander Chu. Yang Kai recognized at a glance that this person was the vice commander who had gone to 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce to deliver the land deed. Although the two had never met face to face, Yang Kai had used his divine sense to investigate him at that time and naturally remembered his appearance. At this moment, a man who could stand together with Hua Yumeng and whose strength Chu Zheng was unable to discern could only be the Master Commander Lu had warned him about. At this moment, when he heard Yang Kai's voice again, Chu Zheng immediately determined that this was the Master who even Commander Lu had to treat with caution. His attitude immediately became even more humble. Quickly waving his hand, he said, "This Chu wouldn't dare, Master is too kind." In front of Master, how could this Chu dare call himself commander? After saying so, he asked cautiously, "Master, what happened here?" "It's nothing," Yang Kai chuckled. Pointing to Jiang Chao, he continued, "This friend wanted to rely on his status to annex President Hua's 5 Paths Chamber of Commerce, but after being rejected by President Hua, he flew into a rage out of humiliation and tried to use force. I couldn't stand it, so I taught them a lesson." "What?" Chu Zheng flew into a rage. "Who dares to use force against President Hua? Are you tired of living?" While speaking, a pair of dignified eyes looked towards Jiang Chao. When he saw Jiang Chao's face clearly, he couldn't help but be startled. "Young Master Jiang?" After recognizing Jiang Chao, Chu Zheng's mood immediately turned sour. Chu Zheng wished he had never come here. But there was no point in regretting it now. Chu Zheng could only curse Jiang Chao in his heart. He thought to himself that this stupid second-generation heir could have offended anyone. Now that he had offended this master, it was going to be difficult for him as well. "So it's Commander Chu. I ask Commander Chu to uphold justice for this young master." Jiang Chao saw the fear on Chu Zheng's face and was overjoyed. Looking at Chu Zheng pitifully, he said, "Commander Chu, this young master didn't use force against President Hua. I just wanted to discuss the merger of the Chambers of Commerce with President Hua. Commander Chu, you know how business works, it's nothing more than mutual consent, but this guy actually injured 2 of my guards. Commander Chu, look, my 2 guards have yet to wake up, and I don't even know if they're alive or dead. They have elders and children to take care of, so how can they live in the future?" When it came to the emotional part, Jiang Chao actually started to cry and complain with snot and tears. This cold sweat appeared on Chu Zheng's forehead as he kept wiping it with his hand. With things having gotten to this point, it was no longer something a small vice commander like him could handle. If things went wrong, he would end up offending both sides. "Commander Chu, as you just said, Purple Star City strictly forbids fighting and injuring people in the city. If there is a violation, the light punishment is to have their cultivation crippled and thrown into the frost prison, while the heavy punishment is to be killed on the spot. This man has flouted Purple Star City's laws, So I ask Commander Chu to enforce the law impartially and restore my Purple Star City to its former glory. Jiang Chao spoke excitedly as he danced around, as if he could already see the scene of Yang Kai being punished. Yang Kai just stared at him like he was a fool. Chu Zheng's face was also extremely ugly, wishing he could sew Jiang Chao's mouth shut. Purple Star City did have these rules, but it also depended on who they were dealing with. Those with backgrounds could ignore these rules, and the master standing in front of Chu Zheng was obviously one of them. Chu Zheng didn't have the courage to punish Yang Kai, nor did he have the ability to do so, but Jiang Chao's words had forced him into a desperate situation, making him feel as if he was being roasted over a fire. Chu Zheng couldn't help hating Jiang Chao to death in his heart. Commander Chu, do you want to arrest this king? Yang Kai looked at Chu Zheng with a smile. I wouldn't dare, master is being too serious. Chu Zheng's forehead was dripping with sweat as his face flushed red. There must be something fishy about this matter. This Chu needs to investigate before making a decision. Jiang Chao's triangular eyes widened as he shouted in dissatisfaction, Commander Chu, don't lie through your teeth. My 2 guards being injured is a fact, what more is there to investigate? Fuck your 18 generations of ancestors. Chu Zheng cursed fiercely in his heart. Just as Chu Zheng was at a loss and didn't know how to deal with this matter, he suddenly raised his head, as if he had heard something, and immediately after, a look of joy appeared on his face. In the blink of an eye, Chu Zheng restored his calm demeanor and swept his sharp eyes over Jiang Chao. Under the latter's stunned gaze, Chu Zheng shouted, Young Master Jiang, the matter has been investigated. Today's matter was not this master's fault, but rather your actions. You were the first to act and disrespect this master, so the master decided to punish you. Heh! Jiang Chao's face froze, never having expected Chu Zheng to dare say such a thing. What's more, all he did was stand in place and do nothing, so how could this matter be investigated? Young Master Jiang, since it's your fault, then please follow this vice commander. Chu Zheng was already filled with anger towards Jiang Chao, but now that someone was backing him up, he wasn't afraid and simply stared at Jiang Chao coldly. Chu Zheng, you dare. Jiang Chao shouted, you dare arrest me? This young master is the grandson of 8th Elder. If today's matter is known to 8th Elder, do you think you will have a good end? Chu Zheng's complexion changed slightly, but soon, he sneered and said, Young Master Jiang's courage is too great. This vice commander represents Purple Star City and Purple Star. Even if this matter is brought to 8th Elder's attention, he will not say anything. Yet you dare to contradict and threaten this vice commander? Do you not put Purple Star in your eyes? How could I? Jiang Chao wore an aggrieved expression, never having imagined that things would develop to this extent. Whether you do or not is not up to you to decide. Come with this vice commander. Chu Zheng, don't use a chicken feather as an arrow, think carefully about this young master's identity. Jiang Chao shouted fiercely. Chu Zheng waved his hand impatiently and shouted, seize him. Several Purple Star City guards rushed up and quickly subdued Jiang Chao. Jiang Chao was still struggling. As he struggled, he cursed loudly. His curses were extremely unpleasant to the ears. Chu Zheng frowned and ordered, seal his meridians. The guard who had captured Jiang Chao received this order and stretched out his hand to press down on Jiang Chao's back, silencing him. Vice Commander Chu enforces the law impartially and has a noble character. This king admires him greatly. Yang Kai cupped his fists to Chu Zheng with a smile. Chu Zheng blushed and said humbly, Master is too polite. This Chu was simply doing his duty. Since the culprit has been captured, this Chu will not disturb Master's mood any further. Master, please do as you wish, this Chu will take his leave. Take care. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Chu Zheng shouted and led the many guards away quickly. The many onlookers were still in shock, unable to believe that Jiang Chao, who had dominated Purple Star City, would be captured and taken away by Chu Zheng. Everyone looked at Yang Kai's expression with great dread, guessing what this person's origins were and why Chu Zheng's attitude had changed. Hua Yumeng also wore a blank look. Although she knew that Kai Yang's identity was definitely not ordinary since even Lu Tianfeng was afraid of him, but in front of so many people, Chu Zheng's actions were no different from slapping 8th Elder Jiang Changfeng's face. How could Yang Kai's identity be so high that Chu Zheng would make such a choice? Was he even more powerful than Purple Star's 8th Elder? Hua Yumeng stared at the tall figure in a daze, as if she was looking at a fog that could swallow the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, her beautiful eyes filled with confusion. "Let's go," Yang Kai whispered to Hua Yumeng before walking off in the direction of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce. Before leaving, he glanced in a certain direction and smiled slightly. Hua Yumeng followed him blankly. Somewhere 1,000 meters away from the place where Yang Kai and Jiang Chao had a conflict, there was a restaurant called the No. 1 Pavilion Under Heaven. The No. 1 Pavilion Under Heaven had a total of 9 floors. The 4th floor and below were for ordinary cultivators to drink and have fun, while the 4th floor and above were only for cultivators with strength and status. The higher the floor, the higher the requirements. As for the 9th floor, only the top masters were entertained, not just because one had money, but also because one had a high reputation and status. It was said that the No. 1 Pavilion Under Heaven had even entertained several elders of Purple Star. At this moment, on the 9th floor, 2 people were sitting by the window, looking down. One of them was an old man with half-squinted eyes that flashed with a faint light. This person's aura was restrained to the extreme, but occasionally, a trace of Origin King Realm fluctuations would leak out, indicating he was an Origin King Realm master. Opposite this old man sat a young man dressed like a young master. This young man held a feather fan and had an air of arrogance about him, giving him an extraordinary temperament. Chapter 1853. One old man and one young man both stared at Yang Kai's back as he left, not speaking for a long time. The old man's expression was dignified, but the young man seemed to be very interested in Yang Kai, a faint smile appearing on his face. After Yang Kai's back disappeared from sight, the young man smiled slightly. "Interesting. Rude brat." The old man coldly snorted. "Why does old Ji say that?" The young man looked at the old man with some surprise. Ji Jun snorted. "That little brat discovered this old master and second young master were hiding here and probably knew that Chu Zheng's change in attitude just now was related to us, but instead of thanking us, he simply left. If that's not rude, then what is?" The young man was slightly startled. That person even discovered old Ji's hiding place? Ji Jun nodded. "Second young master may not have seen clearly, but that person glanced towards us before he left. Obviously, he had discovered us long ago." The young man raised his brow. Old Ji is a master at the peak of the First Order realm, and his divine sense is no weaker than that of an ordinary Second Order master, yet he was able to discover old Ji. Doesn't that mean he really has a Second Order cultivation? Ji Jun frowned slightly and pondered for a moment before saying, "This old master didn't dare to spy too obviously, so he was unable to determine what kind of cultivation this person possessed." Although Lu Tianfeng had direct contact with him, according to Lu Tianfeng, he couldn't see through the other party's background. It seems that even if this person isn't as good as this old master, he isn't far behind. As for whether he really is a Second Order master, that remains to be seen. The young man grinned. Good, good. No wonder he dares act so arrogant. He's a man of skill. This young master likes this kind of appearance. Second young master. Ji Jun looked at the young man hesitantly. "Do you want to recruit this person?" The young man nodded. During this period of time, Purple Star City has been filled with turbulent undercurrents. The party led by Great Elder has been actively acting and has already encroached on many places they shouldn't have. If this young lord does not take action, Purple Star's surname will change. Ji Jun's face changed slightly as he coldly snorted. Great Elder and the others are seeking their own deaths. When Lord returns, they will definitely be held accountable. As for you, second young master, you've been keeping a low profile for so many years. Why are you so anxious this time? Although his lord and eldest young master had been missing for almost 2 years, when his lord left 2 years ago, he said that he and eldest young master were going to handle some important matters. He would be back in a few days. What if His Majesty returns and finds out that second young master? Second young master, you need to know. With his lord's ability, There weren't many people in Star Territory who could threaten him, and even fewer who wanted to kill him. He will come back sooner or later. A faint trace of worry flashed across the young man's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He chuckled and said, "Old G is right. It's not that this young master is in a hurry, but time doesn't wait for me. What's more, I'm doing this for the Z family, not for my own selfish desires. Even if my father comes back, he won't blame me much." "I hope so." Ji Jun nodded worriedly. Seeing that the young man was determined, he didn't try to persuade him any further. "Old Ji, with your insight, do you think it's possible for me to recruit this person?" The young man stared in the direction Yang Kai had left and asked. "Everyone has a price. It all depends on whether or not second young master can afford it. As long as we cater to his tastes, we'll be able to act." "What old G said is right." The young man smiled slightly. "It seems that I need to find out what he likes first." TSK, Purple Star's third venerable. This power cannot be underestimated. At this critical moment, I must not let him slip away from this young master's palm. Saying so, he clenched his fists, as if he wanted to grasp the world, his purple hair flying in the wind. Yang Kai took Hua Yumeng back to Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, but when he returned, he could not help frowning and looking inside. He found that there was an Origin King Realm Master inside the Chamber of Commerce who was sitting in a room in the backyard. Yang Kai did not know what this master was doing, but the aura he was giving off was unfamiliar and definitely not Lu Tianfeng's. Jiao Hong hurried out of the Chamber of Commerce to greet him with an anxious look on her face. "Sister Hong, what's wrong?" Hua Yumeng looked at Jiao Hong suspiciously. Jiao Hong glanced at Yang Kai and whispered, "Eighth Elder is waiting in the back hall." "Master, Eighth Elder?" Hua Yumeng felt dizzy and almost lost her footing, her beautiful eyes looking towards Yang Kai with a complicated expression as her heart filled with unease. Since Yang Kai had appeared in Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, these Master Realm Masters, who she had only heard of in the past, had appeared one after another in the small territory of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, making Hua Yumeng feel like she was dreaming. The small Five Paths Chamber of Commerce was like an invisible whirlpool that sucked in these Master Realm Masters one by one. What worried Hua Yumeng was that any one of these Master Realm Masters could crush the Chamber of Commerce with a single finger. At this moment, however, the one who had come was the Eighth Elder, Jiang Chao's granduncle. Could it be that the Eighth Elder had come here because of what had just happened? Hua Yumeng suddenly panicked and could only look at Yang Kai imploringly. "Master." Yang Kai frowned. "I'll go and take a look." Although he had long expected that once he took out the venerable token, it would attract countless troubles, he really hadn't expected it to come so quickly. Purple Star's Eighth Elder was someone Yang Kai had never met before, but he was definitely an Origin King Realm Master, so Yang Kai didn't know why he was looking for him. However, the Eighth Elder's arrival shouldn't have anything to do with Jiang Chao. After all, time was of the essence, so it was impossible for the other party to act so quickly. It seemed that this Eighth Elder had come looking for him for something else. In the back hall, an old man with a white face and no beard was waiting gloomily with an extremely impatient look on his face. It was Purple Star's Eighth Elder, Jiang. Xia Jingwu, Yarrow Qing, Hai Tang, and the others were all standing in front of him with smiles on their faces, not daring to breathe too loudly. When had they ever seen such a Master Realm Master? Although they had mingled in Purple Star City for many years, the only people they had ever met were Origin Returning Realm and Saint King Realm Cultivator. They had never seen an Origin King Realm Master before. Even when Lu Tianfeng arrived last night, none of them had come into contact with him at such a close distance. But today, an elder with a higher status than Lu Tianfeng had come. What's more, this Eighth Elder's mood did not seem to be very good. The pressure he was exuding, either intentionally or unintentionally, caused the vitality of Xia Jingwu and the others to tumble, forcing them to suppress it, otherwise, they would have already coughed up blood. "You call this tea?" Jiang was impatient from waiting, and he casually picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. Then, he was furious and threw the teacup on the ground as he shouted, "How dare all of you! I've personally come here, yet you're using such inferior tea to entertain me? Could it be that you don't put this elder in your eyes? Xie Jingwu trembled in fright and was forced to his knees by the other party's aura, trembling as he said, "Eighth Elder is wise, this lowly one would not dare. This scattered mountain cloud mist tea is the best tea our Five Paths Chamber of Commerce has. This is the best tea you have. It's like trash." Jiang coldly snorted, a displeased look on his face. Xie Jingwu smiled bitterly, thinking to himself, what kind of identity and status do you have? How could a small chamber of commerce compare to the tea you drink? This scattered mountain cloud mist tea was something the people of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce could only dream of, but in front of Eighth Elder, it was called trash. Haitang and Yarrow Qing looked at the spilled tea on the floor, a look of distress flashing across their eyes. They were reluctant to drink this tea themselves and had always used it to entertain distinguished guests. "Master, please calm your anger. I'm afraid this tea is not to the master's taste. Would you like this lowly one to go out and buy some better tea for the master?" Xie Jingwu asked cautiously. "Chimph, no need." Jiang's face was gloomy. This elder did not come here to drink tea. "Where is the person I'm looking for? Why is there no trace of him even now? This." Xie Jingwu turned his head and looked out the door but did not see anyone at all, causing cold sweat to drip down his forehead, reporting to Eighth Elder, "The master went out with our president early in the morning and we don't know where they went." "You won't go look for him?" Jiang's temper was very bad, and as he spoke, he waved his hand and sent out a strong wind towards Xie Jingwu and the others, shouting loudly, "I'll give you a stick of incense worth of time, if you can't find him. What do you want?" Before Jiang could finish his sentence, a faint voice came from outside the door. Just as the voice rang out, a person suddenly appeared in the room. That person stood in front of Xie Jingwu and the others, and with a light lift of his hand, he extinguished the gust of wind that attacked them. "Master!" Xie Jingwu and the others stared at Yang Kai's back and were all overjoyed. "You've finally returned." Yarrow Qing and Haitang also looked at Yang Kai with aggrieved expressions. Although they were not familiar with Yang Kai's help just now made them feel deeply grateful to Yang Kai. They were all origin kings, but compared to this Eighth Elder, Yang Kai was simply incomparable. Yang Kai frowned as he looked at Xie Jingwu and the others, a trace of anger flashing across his face. He stretched out his hand and pulled them up one by one, saying, "You can leave now." "Yes." Xie Jingwu and the others obeyed his orders and ran out of the room one after another. Only after they arrived at the backyard did they gasp for breath, their faces pale. Inside the room, Yang Kai turned his head and looked at Jiang coldly, sneering, "Your Excellency is quite awe-inspiring." Jiang frowned as he looked at Yang Kai, his divine sense fluctuating, seemingly wanting to spy on Yang Kai's cultivation, but in the next moment, he discovered that he was unable to see through his opponent's foundation. Just as he was about to withdraw his divine sense, his face changed in horror, because at that moment, the other party's body seemed to have transformed into a vortex that pulled in his divine sense. Jiang turned pale with fright and desperately urged his divine sense to try to break free. However, the vortex that was pulling in his divine sense strangely disappeared. Jiang was unable to withdraw his divine sense in time and his knowledge sea tumbled violently. With a muffled groan, he could not help but take a few steps back, his face turning slightly pale as if he had suffered some internal injuries. Yang Kai's lips curled into a sneer as he looked at him sarcastically. That sneer made Jiang feel a little ashamed. How could he not know that he had kicked an iron plate? Forcing himself to focus, he asked angrily, "What is the meaning of this, friend? What do you think?" Yang Kai coldly snorted. Chapter 1854. Seeing Yang Kai not giving him any face, Jiang Changfeng wore an embarrassed look but didn't continue to argue. After all, he had overestimated himself and tried to use his divine sense to investigate Yang Kai, but how could he have known the other party's methods would be so strange that he had suffered a loss? Taking a deep breath to calm the tumbling blood in his heart, Jiang Changfeng suppressed his anger and asked, "Is this friend Purple Star's third venerable?" Yang Kai glanced at him but didn't pay him any attention. Instead, he walked over to the table, picked up the cut scattered mountain cloud mist tea, poured himself a cup, took a sip, and praised, "Good tea, good tea." Jiang Changfeng's old face was so gloomy that a layer of frost could be seen on it. He understood that the other party was deliberately saying this because of what happened just now. The other party not giving him any face really put him in a difficult position. Although there was no one else here to see, he was still an origin king, so when had he ever been so despised? Jiang Changfeng couldn't help coldly snorting and saying, "This old master is Purple Star's 8th elder, Jiang Changfeng. May I ask if this friend is my Purple Star's 3rd venerable?" "You!" Jiang Changfeng was furious and trembled with anger. Yang Kai coldly snorted and said, "Since you know this king is Purple Star's venerable, you still dare act so impudent? Have you lived so many years in vain?" After learning that the person who had come was Jiang Changfeng, Yang Kai was not in a good mood. If the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. He had already experienced Jiang Chao's behavior, so it was obvious that Jiang Changfeng was not a good person either. Seeing Xia Jingwu and the others being intimidated by Jiang Changfeng, Yang Kai became even more annoyed. The fate of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce and the others could be said to have been implicated by him, so Yang Kai naturally wanted to return the favor, so his attitude and tone were quite unfriendly. A Purple Star Venerable. A Purple Star Venerable. His status was extremely high, no less than the top 3 elders of Purple Star. Jiang Changfeng was only the 8th ranked elder. It stood to reason that when one saw Yang Kai, one had to show the courtesy of a subordinate, but with Yang Kai abusing this rule, even if Jiang Changfeng was angry, there was nothing he could do. So, after Yang Kai's words left his mouth, Jiang Changfeng's stomach felt like it was on fire, but he could only endure. Taking another deep breath to calm his anger, Jiang Changfeng rolled his eyes. He said, "You said you're a venerable one, so you're a venerable one? Only with a venerable token personally bestowed by Master can one become a venerable of my Purple Star. So far, Master has only bestowed this token to 2 people, but as far as this old Master knows, Your Excellency is not one of them." Jiang Changfeng hurriedly grabbed the honorable token and examined it over and over again, confirming that it was the real deal. A look of suspicion appeared on his face as he muttered, "This venerable token is genuine, but why hasn't my Purple Star Elder Council received any news about the appearance of a 3rd venerable? When did His Majesty bestow this token to Your Excellency? What does that have to do with you?" Yang Kai sneered. "What? 8th elder, do you think that your master needs to report to you?" Jiang Changfeng's complexion changed greatly as he hurriedly said, "I dare not say such words. Master's actions are not something this Jiang has any right to question." "If you have no right to question, then why are you still being so long-winded?" Jiang Changfeng's complexion changed several times, but in the end, he suppressed his anger, held the venerable token in both hands, walked over to Yang Kai, and quickly said, "This venerable token has been verified and can confirm that Your Excellency is indeed my Purple Star's 3rd venerable. This old master has offended Your Excellency before and hopes that venerable will forgive him." Yang Kai glanced sideways at him before continuing to drink his tea and mumbling, "Do you think this king wants to be your Purple Star's venerable? If it weren't for Zilong's pleas, this king would not have accepted this venerable token. What kind of joke is this?" Jiang Changfeng's jaw dropped as he stared at Yang Kai in shock, not knowing if this young man was just boasting or if he was telling the truth. After all, there was no way to verify this. However, holding on to the venerable token was not appropriate, so seeing Yang Kai not accept it, Jiang Changfeng could only respectfully place the venerable token on the table and withdraw. "8th elder coming here. I'm afraid it wasn't just to verify this king's identity, right?" Yang Kai spat out a tea leaf and stared at him indifferently. Jiang Changfeng's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly remembered that arguing with this guy had almost caused him to forget what he was here for, so he quickly said, "Venerable, this Jiang has come here on the orders of Great Elder." "Great Elder?" Yang Kai raised his brow. Great Elder heard that my Purple Star had produced another venerable and was very pleased, so he specially ordered this Jiang to come and invite venerable to the inner city for a chat. "Not interested." Yang Kai curled his lips disdainfully. "What?" Jiang Changfeng stared at Yang Kai in amazement, a look of disbelief filling his face. "You don't understand my words. I said I'm not interested, you may leave." Jiang Changfeng's forehead suddenly broke out in cold sweat as he stuttered, "Venerable," this Jiang said, "Great Elder wishes to see you." "I heard you, so what?" "So what?" Jiang Changfeng suddenly realized that the loss he had suffered just now was not unjustified. This inexplicable venerable did not even give face to Purple Star's Great Elder, so why would he care about an eighth elder? Jiang Changfeng's heart immediately calmed down. However, since he had come here under orders, Jiang Changfeng naturally could not just go back like this. Frowning, he turned to Yang Kai and said, "Venerable, now that Master is not in Purple Star City and Purple Star is under the command of Great Elder, I'm afraid it's not good for Venerable to refuse, right?" "What's not good about it?" Yang Kai looked at Jiang Changfeng with a smile. "This." Jiang Changfeng thought to himself, "You're just pretending to be confused. Not giving face to Great Elder, what's not good about it?" Yang Kai coldly snorted and said, "This king is the Venerable of Purple Star and is not under the command of Purple Star. Even if Zilong wants to see me, he will have to visit me personally and discuss with this king first. Go back and tell Gong's son Liang that if he wants to see this king, he can come here himself. This king does not have time to listen to his nonsense." The Gong's son Liang Yang Kai spoke of was Purple Star's Great Elder. He was a powerful second-order origin king. Jiang Changfeng's eyes bulged as he finally realized just how arrogant and domineering this third venerable was. While feeling nervous in his heart, for some unknown reason, he was also secretly delighted. "Why haven't you left yet?" Yang Kai saw Jiang Changfeng still not moving. Shouting impatiently, his voice mixed with his divine sense, causing Jiang Changfeng's body to tremble and a look of panic to appear on his face. Quickly cupping his fists, he said, "Good. This Jiang will take his leave. Venerable, please wait." Saying so, he quickly turned to leave. "Wait!" Yang Kai suddenly shouted again. Jiang Changfeng was startled and quickly turned around to look at Yang Kai and asked, "What other orders does Venerable have?" Yang Kai narrowed his eyes at him. His voice was cold as he said, "Today is your first offense, so leave some saint crystals as compensation. Go back and tell Gong's son Liang that if any blind fool dares to act presumptuously in Five Paths Chamber of Commerce again, Yang Kai will not be spared. Scaring my friends isn't something some saint crystals can solve. This king will personally go to the inner city and have a good chat with him." Yang Kai emphasized the word chat as a ferocious grin appeared on his face. Jiang Changfeng was startled for a moment before he seemed to understand what Yang Kai meant, a strange expression appearing on his face as he said, "Venerable wants this Jiang to leave some saint crystals. Compensate those people outside. You hurt people. Do you think you can just walk away like this?" Yang Kai looked at him sarcastically, "You don't have to leave any saint crystals. If there is enmity, an eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. This king will make a move, if you can withstand it, you can leave." Jiang Changfeng was taken aback. Although he had not been in contact with Yang Kai for a long time, he understood that the other party's arrogance was not without reason. With his first-order cultivation, there was absolutely no way he could compete with him. Taking a single move from him would not kill him, but he would definitely be injured. After weighing the pros and cons, how could Jiang Changfeng hesitate? Taking out some saint crystals from his space ring, he angrily shouted, "This Jiang does not dare disobey Venerable's orders. Today, this Jiang will also convey Venerable's words to Great Elder without missing a word. That would be for the best." Yang Kai smiled wickedly, as if he was not afraid of heaven or earth. Jiang Changfeng coldly snorted, flicked his sleeves, and left. After Jiang Changfeng left, Yang Kai frowned slightly and began to ponder. He suddenly felt that under the calm exterior of Purple Star City, there seemed to be some turbulence. When he went out with Hua Yumeng today, he had encountered a conflict between Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's people and Purple Star, and then someone had secretly expressed goodwill to him. After returning to the Chamber of Commerce, Jiang Changfeng was waiting for him. All these signs indicated that Purple Star City was about to undergo a great change. "Master." Hua Yumeng walked in and saw Yang Kai pondering for a long time without speaking, so she could not help calling out worriedly, "What's the matter?" Yang Kai looked up at her. "These saint crystals." Hua Yumeng pointed at the saint crystals all over the ground in confusion. Although she did not count them carefully, there were at least 300,000 pieces of saint crystals piled up together, emitting a dazzling light. Yen, these are the compensation Jiang Chang Feng gave to Uncle Xia and the others. Tell them to divide them among themselves, Yang Kai explained with a smile. Compensation, compensation? Hua Yumeng's expression froze as she was surprised. Yen, Elder Jiang's momentum was too imposing just now, causing Uncle Xia and the others to be a little frightened. Elder Jiang is very kind and felt very apologetic, so he left some saint crystals for Uncle Xia and the others. Hua Yumeng suddenly showed a dumbfounded expression. With her shrewdness, how could she not know that this compensation was won by Yang Kai for Uncle Xia and the others? Jiang Changfeng, as Purple Star's 8th elder, was a lofty and insufferably arrogant man, so when had he ever placed the life or death of an ordinary cultivator in his eyes? Unless someone forced him to do so, he would not take the initiative to compensate them. Understanding this, Hua Yumeng looked at Yang Kai gratefully and said, "Many thanks, Master. By the way, President Hua, can I trouble you with something? If Master has something to say, Five Paths Chamber of Commerce will do its best. Also, Master doesn't need to call this mistress president anymore. This mistress cannot afford it, just call this mistress by her name." Saying so, Hua Yumeng blushed slightly and lowered her head. Yang Kai lightly coughed and said, "It's like this, I want you to help me inquire about whether there has been any movement in Purple Star City recently. After all, you have some connections in Purple Star City, so you may be able to find some clues." Movement in the wind? Hua Yumeng frowned but did not ask any more questions, immediately saying seriously, "Master can rest assured, this mistress will do her best." Chapter 1855. Late at night, the moon waned and the clouds thickened. In a room in the backyard of Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, Yang Kai, who had been meditating, suddenly opened his eyes and formed a seal with his hands. Space force surged around his body and in the next moment, he disappeared. A moment later, near the inner city, Yang Kai appeared from the darkness. It had been 2 days since he arrived in Purple Star City, and although he had been delayed by Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, he had not forgotten his original purpose for coming here, so he planned to try to see if he could sneak into Purple Star Palace tonight and steal the Star Emperor token. If he succeeded, Yang Kai would immediately leave. Whatever turbulence there was in Purple Star City would have nothing to do with him. As for the people from Five Paths Chamber of Commerce, at worst, he could just take them away with him. Yang Kai wouldn't leave them behind to take the blame for him. Purple Star City was divided into 2 parts, the inner and outer city. Any cultivator could enter the outer city as long as they paid a certain amount of saint crystals, while the inner city was only accessible to cultivators belonging to Purple Star. The inner city was the most prosperous and fertile area of Purple Star City. Purple Star's many elders, protectors, deacons, and all kinds of master and servant lived in the inner city, each occupying a good location and enjoying endless cultivation resources. In the inner city, there was a sentry every 3 steps and a guard every 5, making it extremely tight. However, in front of a powerful cultivator like Yang Kai, these defenses were nothing more than empty shells. He didn't even need to deliberately use his space force, simply wrapping himself in his divine sense and swaggering into the inner city. No matter how close the guards were to him, they simply brushed past him as if they didn't notice. The cultivation of the cultivator in the inner city was generally much higher, so Yang Kai simply walked forward. Secretly startled, Yang Kai noticed the auras of more than one Origin King realm master. Each Origin King was like a dormant lion, entrenched in their own territory. The slightest movement would alarm them. Fortunately, Yang Kai's divine sense was extremely powerful, so he could always avoid danger ahead of time and conceal himself well. Walking in the dark night, Yang Kai's pace fluctuated between fast and slow, his figure flickering without causing any fluctuations, and soon approached a row of huge palaces in the center of the inner city. Purple Star Palace, the symbol of Purple Star's power. A sacred place revered by hundreds of millions of cultivators of Purple Star. The entire palace complex was made of purple jade. Looking from afar, The Purple Star Palace was like a wisp of purple chi coming from the east, as if the sun would rise in the next moment. Of light. Yang Kai's. He observed the movements around the Purple Star Palace. He muttered, Chen 5, Kuan 6, Kan 10. Taking a step forward, Yang Kai quickly moved in a certain direction and soon arrived at a certain spot where the energy barrier was weak. Yang Kai smiled with satisfaction and rushed directly into this weak spot. For them to be able to enter the Purple Star Palace so smoothly, Zedong's contribution was definitely not negligible. Although Purple Star Palace was huge, there was a powerful barrier around it. Without a special token, it was impossible to enter. Once one tried to force their way in, they would inevitably trigger a reaction from the barrier, but with Zedong's guidance, things were different. Zedong, as the young master of Purple Star, lived in Purple Star Palace all year round, so he knew the weaknesses of this barrier like the back of his hand. As the saying went, a thief in the house was hard to guard against, and it was not unreasonable. Inside Purple Star Palace, although there weren't many barriers, each of them was extremely powerful and extremely well hidden. Yang Kai wanted to act stealthily this time, so naturally, he didn't want to expose his position, so Zedong came in handy for this purpose. Before coming here, Yang Kai deliberately asked Zedong about the situation inside Purple Star Palace. Zedong naturally did not dare to conceal anything, but he also said that although he knew most of the barriers inside Purple Star Palace, his understanding was not comprehensive. These things were usually handled by special people. As the young master of Purple Star, how could he have the leisure to care about such things? However, this information was enough. As long as Yang Kai was not too unlucky, he should not make any mistakes. While observing the surrounding environment, Yang Kai avoided the barriers and quietly approached a palace in the center of Purple Star Palace. That place was the Purple Star Treasure House, and it was the most heavily guarded place in Purple Star Palace, but it was also the easiest place for Yang Kai to break through because Zedong knew the situation there like the back of his hand, and Yang Kai even had the key to open the treasure house. As such, as long as he could get close to that palace, he could accomplish his mission. Time passed slowly, and his progress was quite smooth. Yang Kai approached the palace little by little. Seeing that there was only a third of the way to his destination, Yang Kai, who was walking through the void, suddenly stopped. Just now, he felt as if he had touched some kind of barrier and an invisible wave of power spread out in all directions. Shit! Yang Kai's face went pale. He had never expected that the barriers in Purple Star City would be so well hidden that even his divine sense could not detect them. The next moment, Yang Kai felt two powerful divine senses sweep towards him. These two divine senses belonged to an Origin King Realm Master, so obviously someone had noticed the movement here. Even though Yang Kai was skilled and courageous, he could not help feeling his scalp go numb at this moment. Although he was proficient in the Tao of Space and was a second-order Origin King, this place was still his enemy's lair. There were countless masters here, and if he was really entangled here, whether he could escape or not was not certain. He didn't dare to be careless. He quickly flashed and was about to teleport away. But at that moment, the pressure of a territory domain pressed down from the sky. This territory domain was so powerful that it seemed to be able to seal off space itself. Yang Kai's figure could not help pausing and was unable to leave immediately. Scoundrel, how dare you behave so atrociously in my Purple Star Palace? An angry roar rang out from afar, shaking the entire Purple Star Palace cultivator. Immediately afterwards, a huge vortex appeared above Yang Kai's head, and from this vortex, a giant palm suddenly pressed down. Second-order Origin King. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he immediately judged the true level of his attacker. The other party was not here, but he was able to launch an attack across space. This kind of ability was not something a first-order Origin King cultivator could achieve. Only a master who had been in the second order for many years could achieve such a feat. As the giant palm condensed from energy descended, an endless suction force seemed to emerge from it, trying to suck Yang Kai in and prevent him from escaping. This was definitely a powerful secret technique. If he had been in the first order, Yang Kai would not have been able to block it easily, but now that he was also a second-order master, the same level of cultivation as his attacker, he naturally did not fear this attack. Yang Kai did not resist and instead leapt forward to meet the giant palm head-on. Mid-air, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and sent out several dozen golden blood threads, condensing them into a golden streak that shot forward while Yang Kai followed closely behind. Asterisk Hong, asterisk with a loud bang, the world seemed to shake. The golden light penetrated the giant palm and the terrifying palm print suddenly dissipated before collapsing. The power that had sealed the world no longer existed. Yang Kai immediately used his space secret technique and disappeared from the spot. In the next moment, 3 figures arrived at the scene of the incident one after another. The first person to arrive was an old man with a long beard that reached his chest. His hair was white, and his face was gloomy. His expression was dignified without being angry. He turned his head to look around, and there was shock in his eyes. The second to arrive was a man and a woman. Before they could figure out what had happened, they saw the old man standing in the void and immediately wore solemn expressions as they cupped their fists and called out, "Great Elder." This old man was Purple Star's Great Elder, Gong Sun Liang. He was one of the top second-order origin kings in the Star Territory, and his aura was no less majestic than Zi Long, the sect master of Purple Star. "Great Elder, just now?" The female origin king realm master asked hesitantly. Someone broke into Purple Star Palace. Gong Sun Liang shouted with a gloomy expression. "What?" The other male origin king realm master's complexion changed. "Who dares act so presumptuous?" "I don't know." Gong Sun Liang shook his head and narrowed his eyes. "This person's strength is very strong. Being able to break this old master's void-extinguishing palm is not something an ordinary person can accomplish." The 2 origin kings looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Previously, they were quite far away. Although they were aware of the energy fluctuations, they weren't able to clearly see what had happened. It wasn't until now that they understood that this person had actually exchanged a move with the Great Elder. Moreover, this person had even broken the Great Elder's void-extinguishing palm. The female origin king realm master hesitated and asked, "Doesn't that mean the other party is a second-order origin king?" As soon as this statement came out, she was taken aback. If it was really a second-order origin king who wanted to harm Purple Star Palace, it would be very troublesome. Besides Great Elder, who was a second-order origin king, everyone else here was just a first-order origin king. The difference between a first-order and a second-order was like heaven and earth. Whether or not it was a second-order origin king, this old master couldn't see through it. The speed at which the other party attacked and retreated was very fast, and the speed at which he fled. Gong Sun Liang frowned, unable to believe that the other party had disappeared right under his nose. No matter how hard he pushed his divine sense, he could not detect the other party's aura. It was as if the scene just now was just a farce he had orchestrated. While the few of them were talking, more experts were alarmed and rushed over one after another. Even Ziwu Ji rushed here with Ji Jun's second young master. Everyone saluted Ziwu Ji. Although everyone knew that the next master of Purple Star was Zidong, Ziwu Ji was still Zilong's son, so they had no choice but to give him face. Only Gong Sun Liang stood there unabashed. Wu Ji greets Great Elder. On the other hand, Ziwu Ji needed to salute Gong Sun Liang. Because he was not Purple Star's young master, if Zidong were here, the situation would be different. Gong Sun Liang did not say anything, simply gently nodding with a proud expression. Seeing his appearance, a cold light flashed across Ziwu Ji's eyes and he smiled lightly. "Great Elder, what happened here? How did Wu Ji notice that someone attacked?" Gong Sun Liang turned a deaf ear to this question, as if he had not heard it at all, not even bothering to respond. Everyone's expression changed several times as the atmosphere became extremely stiff. Chapter 1856. Although everyone had known for a long time that the second young master and Great Elder were not on good terms, whenever they met in the past, they would always put on a show, but in the past year, the relationship between the two sides seemed to have become even more strained. The reason was simple. Great Elder was young Master Zidong's maternal grandfather, and his daughter Gong Sun Yu was Zidong's biological mother. With this relationship, Gong Sun Liang naturally spared no effort to support Zidong's ascension and wait for him to become Purple Star's sect master. Zi Wuji's mother was just a woman from a small family in Purple Star, so how could she be compared to Zi Dong? As such, Gongsun Liang had always looked down on Zi Wuji. Since Zi Long and Zi Dong left Purple Star nearly 2 years ago and had yet to return, Purple Star had been embroiled in a fierce struggle for power and profit. Especially in the past year, Zi Wuji had acted in secret and won over many masters, while Gongsun Liang had also made frequent arrangements. The conflict between the two sides was almost impossible to conceal. The actions of these two sides also led to the many masters of Purple Star splitting into 3 distinct factions. One of them was naturally the cultivators who were convinced by Zi Wuji and were willing to serve him, while the other was led by Gongsun Liang. Taking advantage of the absence of Purple Star's young master and Purple Star's young master, the purpose of this was self-evident. The other cultivators were simply waiting to see what would happen and were not moved by either side, simply waiting for Zi Long to return. Zi Wuji frowned, a look of displeasure on his face. After all, he was Purple Star's second young master. Gongsun Liang not giving him any face in front of so many masters really put him on the spot. Gongsun Liang, how presumptuous. Ji Jun, who had been standing behind Zi Wuji, suddenly shouted, "Second young master is asking you a question. Why don't you answer?" Gongsun Liang's eyes flashed as he looked down at Ji Jun coldly, narrowing his eyes as he said, "Who is the one acting presumptuous here?" "This old master is Purple Star's great elder. Master is not in the palace, so everything here is presided over by this old master. Who do you think you are to dare shout at this old master?" Ji Jun sneered coldly. "Gongsun Liang. Don't think others don't know what you're up to. The tiger is not at home, the monkey is king, waiting for master to return. Let's see how you can act arrogant now. Who are you calling a monkey?" When had Gongsun Liang ever been insulted like this? He couldn't help feeling angry. Ji Jun's expression. "You know very well in your heart." Ji Jun sneered. "You're courting death." Gongsun Liang was furious as his Saint Chi surged fiercely, seemingly about to attack Ji Jun in the next moment. Everyone's expression changed drastically. "Mph." Gongsun Liang snorted coldly, refusing to comment. Zi Wuji chuckled. Now is not the time to engage in internal strife. The most important thing right now is to find the person who broke into Purple Star Palace. I don't know what this person wants to do, but I have no idea. It would be quite troublesome if they don't come with good intentions. What do you think, Great Elder? Gongsun Liang naturally knew that now was not the time to start a conflict with the other party. The sudden arrival of a second-order origin king in Purple Star Palace irritated him greatly, so he didn't say anything more. Zi Wuji continued, "Father is not here. Eldest brother is serving father, leaving Purple Star Palace without a leader. Although Wuji wants to share father's burden and solve his problems, his strength is too low, so I'm afraid he is powerless to do so. Since Great Elder is in charge of all the affairs in the palace, I will have to trouble Great Elder to find this person. I ask Great Elder to find this thief and tear him to 10,000 pieces as a warning to others. Otherwise, what face will my Purple Star have left?" Gongsun Liang frowned and quickly said, "There is no need for second young master to say more about this matter. This old master will handle it properly. Second young master may return. Wu Ji will take his leave." Zi Wuji nodded and smiled before leading Ji Jun away calmly. After he left, Gongsun Liang shouted, "Everyone, go and find that person. Don't let go of any clues. That person definitely hasn't gone far, he must have used some kind of secret technique to conceal his aura. If you discover anything, don't engage him in a one-on-one battle, just send a message to this old master. This old master will rush over as soon as possible." "Yes." Everyone nodded and dispersed. For a time, Purple Star Palace was filled with a hubbub of voices as masters from all walks of life flew about, creating a lively atmosphere. Powerful divine senses swept through every corner of Purple Star Palace. "Second young master, why are you so tolerant of that old fart?" On the way back, Ji Jun asked with a look of annoyance. A sneer appeared on Zi Wuji's face as he snorted lightly. Now is not the time to shed all pretense of cordiality with him. Let that old thing act arrogantly for a while. Ji Jun frowned, but after listening to him, he did not refute. However, the thief who suddenly appeared this time did me a big favor. Ziwu-ji smiled lightly. No matter who this person is, this young master must thank him properly. Ji-jun frowned and pondered for a moment before asking, second young master means to say that he helped you distract that old fart? That's only one aspect. Ziwu-ji smiled lightly. Ziwu-ji smiled lightly. This person is very strong, able to exchange a single blow with Gongsun Liang and escape, so he must be a second-order master. It won't be easy for Gongsun Liang to find him. Old Ji, think about it, if he can't find him, where will Gongsun Liang put his face? Ji-jun's eyes flashed with joy. If we can't find that person, that old fart will lose all face. Ha ha ha, no wonder second young master was so anxious to withdraw just now. It turns out this was the reason. Why else would this young master be so easygoing? Although this matter is troublesome, if it is handled properly, it will be a good opportunity to accumulate prestige. Ziwu-ji tapped his head lightly. But, who could it be? Who dared to break into my Purple Star Palace? In this star territory, there are not many second-order origin kings, and every one of them is a famous master. There is no way they would do such a thing. For some reason, when Ziwu-ji said this, the figure of Yang Kai suddenly flashed across his mind. Yang Kai, Purple Star's third venerable, had only recently appeared in Purple Star City, and now, something like this had happened in Purple Star Palace, so Ziwu-ji naturally thought of Yang Kai. It couldn't be him, right? Ziwu-ji couldn't be sure, a thick suspicion appearing on his brow. Inside a certain palace in Purple Star Palace, Yang Kai remained dormant, doing his best to restrain his aura as he silently sensed the situation inside Purple Star Palace, a look of helplessness filling his face. Since he had already alerted the enemy, he had come here in vain. What's more, he couldn't leave even if he wanted to at this moment. With so many masters probing him with their divine senses, as long as he made the slightest movement here, he would definitely be noticed. As such, he could only endure and wait for a good opportunity. Time passed slowly, but Yang Kai was not in a hurry. The masters coming and going continued to fly over his head, but no one discovered him. Suddenly, a figure landed not far away, glanced around, and immediately walked straight towards a certain room. In front of this room, there were several origin returning realm masters guarding it, and after seeing the newcomer, they all saluted. Subordinate greets seventh elder. The seventh elder gently nodded and said, "Is there any movement inside?" Reporting to seventh elder, "There is nothing unusual," the leading origin realm master respectfully replied. The leader of the origin returning realm masters replied respectfully before immediately asking suspiciously, "Seventh elder, what happened just now? Why did this subordinate feel like there was a fight going on?" "Someone broke into Purple Star Palace. Great Elder was afraid that someone was here for the people in this room, so he called me over to take a look." "Open the barrier." "Yes." The several origin realm masters heard this and without hesitation, each took out a flag-like artifact from their space rings, poured their Saint Chi into it, and in the next moment, the space around the room rippled as the barrier was activated. The seventh elder walked straight inside and after a short while, angry shouts and curses rang out from inside. However, these curses soon died down, as if they had been beaten up by the seventh elder. The seventh elder walked out from inside with a trace of annoyance on his face as he coldly snorted, "Overestimating yourselves, daring to attack this old master. If you weren't still useful, I would have taken your lives directly. Watch carefully, if even one of these people gets lost, you'll lose your head." The several origin realm masters looked solemn and nodded. The seventh elder took a step forward, turned into a stream of light, and flew up into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After the seventh elder left, the several origin realm masters glanced at each other and began forming seals with dignified expressions, preparing to open the barrier again. Yang Kai hid in place with a strange expression as he stared at the room with a suspicious look on his face. Amidst the curses and shouts just now, he seemed to have heard the voice of an acquaintance. This made him somewhat unable to believe his eyes. After hesitating for a moment, Yang Kai made up his mind. Taking advantage of the fact that the barrier had not been activated yet, his figure flickered and he rushed directly into the room. The several origin realm masters who were activating the barrier frowned. At that moment, They felt a vague sense of uneasiness, but this feeling quickly disappeared, leaving them with blank looks on their faces. However, these people all thought that they were mistaken and didn't care too much about it, quickly activating the barrier again. Inside the room, Yang Kai appeared leisurely. Before he could see the scene inside the room, two figures suddenly rushed up, intending to attack him. Yang Kai's face sank as he released his Origin King Realm territory domain, completely freezing the surrounding space. Under his deliberate control, the range of his territory domain was extremely small, only covering this room and not touching the barrier outside. Sha. Yang Kai quickly stretched out his finger and put it to his lips. Only then did he see the situation inside the room clearly. There were a total of 5 people in the room, all of them Origin Realm Masters, the strongest of whom was only a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator. 4 of them were unfamiliar, but one of them was a young man that Yang Kai found familiar. At this moment, the young man was frozen mid-air by Yang Kai's territory domain and a look of suspicion flashed across his eyes as he stared at Yang Kai, but in the next moment, his eyes widened and his expression became dull, dazed, and shocked as he pointed at Yang Kai and trembled. "You," Yang Kai grinned. "Brother Shen Tu, it's a small world, I trust you have been well since we last met?" Chapter 1857. The young man in the room turned out to be Shen Tu. He was the son of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce's president, Rou, and Shuiyu's second brother. When Yang Kai was trapped on the floating continent, Shen Tu was also there. Both of them were weak at the time, only Saint Realm, with Shen Tu's cultivation being slightly higher, only third-order Saint. The two of them cooperated on the floating continent and formed a friendship. Later, after escaping from the floating continent, Yang Kai followed Shen Tu to Water Moonstar, the home star of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce. Several dozen years had passed since then. Yang Kai never expected to meet this guy on Purple Star, so he was quite surprised. Shen Tu stared at Yang Kai, unable to believe his eyes until Yang Kai took the initiative to greet him, causing him to rub his eyes and call out, "Yang Kai? Indeed, it is this Yang." Yang Kai chuckled. "Why are you here?" Shen Tu frowned and asked in amazement. "It's a long story, brother Shen Tu. Can you tell these people, to calm down?" Yang Kai glanced at the other 4 cultivator who were glaring at him with malicious intent. Shen Tu gently nodded and shouted, "Everyone stop, brother Yang is an old friend of mine." The 4 Origin returning realm masters looked at each other and withdrew their Saint Chi. Yang Kai saw that they were no longer moving and dispersed his territory field. In an instant, everyone in the room regained their freedom. "You've actually reached the Origin King realm?" Shen Tu was shocked by Yang Kai's sudden appearance just now and only now realized what Yang Kai's true cultivation was. His face could not help filling with shock. Back then, his cultivation was slightly higher than Yang Kai's, but after so many years, he was only a first-order Origin returning realm cultivator while Yang Kai had already reached the Origin King realm. Comparing the two, Shen Tu was naturally shocked. One had to know that breaking through to the Origin King realm from the Origin returning realm was not a simple matter. Throughout the ages, how many geniuses had been stuck at this juncture, unable to advance for the rest of their lives? Every cultivator who could break through to the Origin King realm not only had outstanding talent, but luck and opportunity were also indispensable. "I was lucky," Yang Kai chuckled. Shen Tu slowly shook his head. As the son of Hung Luo Chamber's president, Shen Tu's eyesight and experience was extraordinary, so how could he believe Yang Kai's words? He knew that the other was just being modest. However, this was not a good time to discuss this matter. Shen Tu, of course. Staring at Yang Kai with a dignified expression, he whispered, "Brother Yang, you suddenly appeared here. I only have one question to ask, are you and I, friend or foe?" "Friend, not foe," Yang Kai said sincerely. Shen Tu smiled happily and couldn't help laughing. He stepped forward and gave Yang Kai a bear hug, patting his back vigorously as he said, "Brother Yang, it's been a few dozen years since we last met. This one misses you very much." Seeing him being so enthusiastic made Yang Kai feel a little embarrassed. Shen Tu said, "Back then, when you left Water Moonstar on that starship, I learned that something had happened to it. Almost all of the cultivators on board were wiped out, and since then, there has been no news of you, making this Shen Tu feel very guilty. That's not your fault, it was just a coincidence. Yang Kai felt his sincerity and felt warmth in his heart. When he left Water Moonstar that year, he had casually boarded a starship, but Shui Yu just so happened to be on the same boat. It was precisely because of Shui Yu's existence that the starship was destroyed. When the starship had reached a meteor sea, it had been smashed to pieces by a powerful artifact that had been lying in ambush. All the cultivators on the starship had died, leaving only Yang Kai and Shui Yu to escape. It was at that time that he inadvertently discovered the secret that Shui Yu was a woman, which led to the events that followed. After a while, Shen Tu let go of Yang Kai and sighed, "All these years, I've been inquiring about you. Third brother seems to know something, but no matter how I ask, he won't say anything. When I asked too many questions, he even beat me up." Shen Tu grit his teeth and grumbled, "That little bastard, he doesn't know how to respect his elders. If it weren't for my strength being inferior to his, I would have taught him a good lesson." Yang Kai's brow twitched as he thought to himself, Shui Yu had lost all face in front of him that time, even being humiliated by him while naked. Asking her about such things was simply asking for trouble. "It's all good now, I've finally met you." Shen Tu breathed a heavy sigh of relief, as if he was trying to release all the depression he had been suppressing in his heart for several dozen years, his whole body relaxing greatly. "I've been safe and sound all this time." Brother Shen Tu must have been worried. "Second young master, this is..." The several Origin returning realm masters who had been watching from the sidelines until now asked. Shen Tu grinned meaningfully and introduced, "This is Yang Kai, Brother Yang, a friend of this young master's. All of you quickly come and greet Brother Yang." When these people heard this, they didn't dare neglect and quickly cupped their fists and called out in unison, "Greetings, Lord Yang." Yang Kai was an Origin King Realm Master and a brother to Shen Tu, so of course they couldn't disrespect him. Shen Tu rubbed his chin, pondered for a moment, and said, Brother Yang is now an Origin King, so shouldn't I also call him Master?" Brother Shen Tu must be joking. Yang Kai waved his hand, "I'm actually quite curious as to why you are here, and, you seem to have been detained." Hearing Yang Kai's words, Shen Tu immediately became indignant and cursed, "Damn it, this young master is also confused. This time, I was ordered by the Chamber of Commerce to deliver a batch of ordered supplies to Purple Star, but how could I have known I would be captured as soon as I entered Purple Star City? No matter how I asked, I couldn't get any answers. How unlucky. Purple Star didn't say why they captured you." Yang Kai was shocked. "Don't they know you are from Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce? How could they not know?" Shen Tu said angrily, "These Purple Star bastards must have eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall, daring to attack this young master. If this young master escapes one day, he will definitely lead 100 starships to raise Purple Star to the ground." A thoughtful look appeared on Yang Kai's face as he asked, "So, the battle in the city during the day was caused by you?" Shen Tu nodded, "I wanted to escape, but I didn't succeed and was captured. How shameful." Second young master, this old man feels that something has happened to Purple Star. An old man with a sallow complexion said from the side. "Why does old sir say so?" Yang Kai looked at him. "It's just a feeling. Since entering this Purple Star City, this old man has felt that something is not quite right, as if there is some kind of turbulence brewing in the dark. Moreover, since they knew our identities yet dared to detain us, it is obvious they want to use us to do something. Although Purple Star is powerful, it is not as powerful as my Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce. Now that something like this has happened, this old man doesn't believe Purple Star hasn't changed." Yang Kai nodded gently, "I also feel that something has happened to Purple Star. Who cares? This young master just wants to leave this damned place as soon as possible," Shen Tu said angrily. Suddenly, he turned to Yang Kai and asked, "By the way, Brother Yang, why are you here?" "Haha, I came here to steal something." Yang Kai smiled awkwardly and explained what had just happened. The several people who heard this were dumbfounded as they stared at Yang Kai with looks of admiration. Daring to sneak into Purple Star Palace to steal something, this kind of courage and boldness was not something an ordinary person could possess. What's more, Even after being discovered, he was still able to escape unscathed, causing everyone to have a higher evaluation of Yang Kai's strength. But now that we've alerted the enemy, we can only think of another way. Yang Kai rubbed his forehead helplessly. Brother Yang, can you leave this place? Shen Tu looked at Yang Kai and asked. The barrier outside is very powerful. If I try to force my way in, I will definitely be discovered, but if you help me attract their attention, I can leave safely. That's not a problem, leave it to us, Shen Tu grinned. Brother Yang, after we leave here, help me deliver a message to someone. Who? Yang Kai looked at him suspiciously. Shen Tu leaned forward and whispered in Yang Kai's ear. Yang Kai suddenly showed a strange look. I'll leave everything to Brother Yang. Shen Tu cupped his fists solemnly. Don't worry, I'll definitely deliver the message. Yang Kai nodded. Don't worry, I'll find a way to get you out. No problem, Shen Tu grinned. My identity is different, so Purple Star won't dare do anything to me unless they want to provoke a bloody battle between our two great forces. After saying so, he suddenly shouted and shouted, someone's here, someone's here. While shouting, he shot a glance towards the other Origin returning realm masters. Everyone immediately understood and began shouting as well, sending out a flurry of Saint Chi attacks as their Saint Chi fluctuated wildly. The commotion inside the room quickly spread out, and the several Purple Star cultivator who were responsible for guarding outside all wore solemn expressions as they listened attentively. After a short while, one of them exclaimed, "Not good, this group of people has gone crazy, quickly stop them." Everyone didn't dare to neglect and quickly opened the barrier around the room. The moment the barrier was opened, Yang Kai's figure flickered as he rushed out of the room and found a secluded corner to hide. Inside Purple Star Palace, masters were still searching everywhere, but they still couldn't find anything. After waiting for a long time, Yang Kai found a suitable opportunity, used his space secret technique, and calmly left. Although this trip didn't go according to his original plan, he had accidentally discovered Shen Tu's situation, so it wasn't completely fruitless. Inside Clear Sky Auction House's inner courtyard, Li Nuo sat cross-legged but was unable to calm down. Who is it? At that moment, Aunt Chun's voice suddenly called out from outside. At the same time, a man's voice rang in Li Nuo's ears. When she heard this voice, Li Nuo stiffened, but soon a look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face as she quickly looked out the window. It was pitch black outside, with only a ray of light visible in the east. The night was over, and the sky was bright. Li Nuo smiled and said, "Aunt Chun, come back. This person has no malicious intentions and has instead brought me some good news." Chapter 1858. Over the next few days, everything was calm. After sneaking into Purple Star Palace that night and alerting the enemy, Yang Kai did not act rashly again. He believed that Purple Star Palace's security must be extremely tight right now, so even with Yang Kai's ability, he was not confident he could sneak in quietly again. Hua Yumeng used her connections to inquire about the recent situation in Purple Star City and reported it to Yang Kai. Only then did Yang Kai learn that because Zi Long and Zi Dong had not returned for a long time, the upper echelons of Purple Star had split into several factions. Among them, the factions led by Second Young Master Zi Wuji and Great Elder Gong Sun Liang were secretly plotting against each other. Although these matters were suppressed by the leaders of Purple Star, paper could not wrap fire, so there was always some news that would leak out, so Hua Yumeng was able to easily inquire about it. However, the information she inquired about was well known, so there was nothing she could do about anything that was too secretive. This was enough. At the very least, Yang Kai now knew what was hidden under the calm exterior of Purple Star City. Now, there were only two things Yang Kai cared about. One was to steal the Star Emperor token, and the other was to get Shen Tu and the others out. Unfortunately, there was no good opportunity, so he could only wait quietly. Yang Kai had nothing to do, so he followed Hua Yumeng. After all, the value of the land deeds being auctioned by Five Paths Chamber of Commerce this time was simply too great. If there were no masters present, it was difficult to guarantee that no one would try to steal them. Hua Yumeng was naturally overjoyed. She had been thinking about how to invite Yang Kai, but now that he had taken the initiative to ask to follow, her gratitude towards Yang Kai deepened. On the day of the auction, Hua Yumeng was dressed very well, wearing a tight purple dress that accentuated her noble temperament. Following closely behind Yang Kai, she attracted the attention of many passers-by. Entering the auction house with an invitation card in hand, Yang Kai and Hua Yumeng were led into room A5 by Clear Sky Auction House's people. After serving them spirit fruits and tea, they withdrew respectfully. Hua Yumeng stood to the side cautiously, and only after Yang Kai had asked her to sit down uneasily. There was still some time before the auction began. Yang Kai had nothing to do. He began to look around. After a short while, he couldn't help but frown as a trace of suspicion appeared on his face. "Master, what's wrong?" Hua Yumeng's attention had been on Yang Kai, so seeing his expression change at this moment, she quickly asked. "This mistress does not know." Hua Yumeng smiled awkwardly. "Then it's fine." Yang Kai smiled and withdrew his divine sense. He frowned slightly. Just now, he noticed that there were many origin kings in this auction house. This was a very strange thing. There were not many things in this world that could attract an origin king realm master, and even if there were, it should not have appeared in Clear Sky Auction House. An origin king realm master would not have come to this kind of auction house for no reason, and if he was not accompanying Hua Yumeng, he would not have come here. He wouldn't deign to come here either. But now, among all the origin kings here, besides him, there was no one else. There were at least 5 of them. Rooms A1 to A1 all had origin kings guarding them, especially room A1. When Yang Kai's divine sense swept over just now, he was slightly obstructed, which was obviously a sign of the strength of this person. Moreover, the other party's aura felt very familiar to Yang Kai. The person in room A1 was actually Purple Star's great elder, Gong Sun Liang, with whom he had fought a few nights ago. For this auction to be able to attract even Gong Sun Liang, it was obvious that there was definitely something good here. This discovery aroused Yang Kai's interest in this auction. Not long after, on the high platform at the center of the auction house, a beautiful figure appeared leisurely. It was Li Nuo. She had a sweet smile on her face. She was wearing a sleeveless cyan robe that exposed a pair of white arms. The collar of the robe was also very low, faintly showing the snow-white and faintly discernible cleavage in front of her chest. Her beautiful legs were long and slender, and both of her feet were wearing a pair of special jade shoes. Her delicate toes were exposed, causing people to be lost in wild and fanciful thoughts. As soon as she appeared, she attracted the attention of the crowd. Below, countless gazes were greedily looking at her, sizing her up without the slightest scruple. Li Nuo was generous and decent, and with a smile, she lightly opened her red lips and said, "Many thanks to everyone for coming to today's auction. This mistress is deeply grateful for everyone's presence, and it is Clear Sky Auction House's honor. This mistress, Li Nuo, will be the host of today's auction. I hope everyone will give me some face." As she spoke, she gracefully bowed. "Enough idle chatter, today's auction officially begins, but allow this mistress to keep everyone in suspense. Today's auction items include many extremely valuable items. Perhaps they will allow this master to return with a bountiful harvest." When she said this, she glanced towards the several private rooms in the A block. Although she did not say it clearly, the meaning of her words was self-evident. Yang Kai smiled knowingly, thinking that Clear Sky Auction House was truly worthy of having the backing of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce, otherwise, it would never have been able to bring out items that could even tempt an Origin King Realm Master. "Next, please look at the first auction item," Li Nuo called out tenderly as she gestured to the side. The next moment, a woman dressed as a maidservant walked out with a smile on her face, carrying a tray in her hand. The tray was covered with a red cloth. It was unknown what material this red cloth was made of, but it was actually able to isolate most cultivators from probing with their divine senses, causing everyone's hearts to itch as they craned their necks to look around. Hua Yumeng's beautiful eyes also flashed with curiosity as she stared intently. Although this was not the first time she had participated in an auction, it was the first time she had enjoyed the treatment of being able to enter a private room, which was quite different from the feeling she usually got when crowded in the hall below. "It's just an origin-grade mid-rank artifact, you won't be able to use it." Yang Kai saw her staring at it curiously and immediately explained. Hua Yumeng was startled. Master, can you see through it? Yang Kai chuckled. That red cloth is made from the silk of the heavenly snow-red silkworm. This thing has no other function other than to block divine sense detection, but it is also limited. The divine sense of a cultivator below the Origin King realm cannot penetrate it, but it is not difficult for an Origin King realm master. Hua Yumeng gently nodded as a look of longing appeared on her face. She was now a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator, and if there was a chance, she could also try to break through to the Origin King realm, but this hurdle was simply too big. She had broken through so many years ago but had yet to even reach the grand accomplishment stage in her Sure, let alone comprehend the mysteries of her territory. It was likely she had no hope of breaking through in this lifetime. On the stage, Li Nuo smiled slightly, stepped forward, and lifted the red cloth covering the tray, revealing the item inside. Sure enough, it was an Origin-grade mid-rank artifact, and it was a delicate dagger that exuded a cold aura. Li Nuo picked up the dagger, formed a few seals with her hands, and poured her Saint Qi into it. In an instant, the dagger buzzed and a dense array of grain-sized runes suddenly appeared on its blade. The cold aura around the dagger became even more intense. Li Nuo held the dagger in her hand and immediately circulated her Saint Qi to protect herself, chuckling lightly as she explained, "This dividing yuan dagger is made from deep-sea cold iron with cold snake sand, heavenly fiend earth, and the tooth of the ninth-order monster beast, black-eyed tapir. It was carefully refined by an Origin-grade high-rank artifact refiner. It is extremely cold and is specifically designed to break through one's Saint Qi defenses. Everyone, watch carefully." Saying so, she stabbed the dagger towards her own arm. A cold aura visible to the naked eye condensed at the tip of the dagger and soon collided with Li Nuo's own Saint Qi. In the next moment, with a tearing sound, Li Nuo's Saint Qi protection was torn apart. Li Nuo's control of her strength was excellent, so although the dagger tore through her Saint Qi protection, it did not hurt her at all. Taking back the dagger, Li Nuo smiled and said, "Although this dividing yuan dagger is only Origin-grade mid-rank, with it won't be a problem for one to resist a third-order Origin returning realm master. There is no need for this mistress to elaborate on its value. Most importantly, it won't take too long to refine. The base price is 150,000 Saint crystals. Please." As soon as Li Nuo's voice fell, bids rang out in the hall. Everyone was obviously very interested in this artifact. Hua Yumeng also looked interested. This dagger was small and suitable for a woman to use, but Yang Kai's words just now were still ringing in her ears, so she did not want to give Yang Kai face. At that moment though, Yang Kai's voice sounded, "This dagger is flawed. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a failed product." A failed product? Hua Yumeng was startled when she heard this. "Yen, you didn't notice, but when Li Nuo tested the power of this dagger just now, she used an ice attribute secret technique, so if you want to activate the power of this dagger, you must cultivate an ice attribute secret art or secret technique. I don't see any ice attribute secret technique in your body, so even if you win this item, it won't be of much use." "Is that so?" Hua Yumeng was shocked. Isn't Li Nuo deceiving others by doing this? Yang Kai smiled and shook his head. "Not really, it can only be said that she is lying. Moreover, if this dagger is really obtained by a cultivator who cultivates an ice attribute secret art, its power will be quite good. This mistress understands." Hua Yumeng nodded. Inside the hall, the bidding continued and the base price of 150,000 Saint crystals was quickly raised to 280,000. The first auction item was so popular, which made Li Nuo smile very happily. The most important thing for an auction was to get off to a good start so that the enthusiasm of the auctioneers could be mobilized and they could sell for a good price. After the price rose to 320,000 Saint crystals, the number of cultivator bidding gradually dwindled. After all, the price of an Origin-grade mid-rank artifact was about the same, so bidding for more would not be worth the loss. Not every cultivator spent so many Saint crystals on themselves. Even if they occasionally earned a lot of Saint crystals, they would buy spirit pills to cultivate and increase their strength. Artifacts were only supplementary. In the end, This yuan-dividing dagger was bought by a male cultivator in the hall for 350,000 Saint crystals. The following auctions were in full swing. With the first auction item as a good start, the enthusiasm of a large number of cultivators was aroused. Auction items were presented one after another, and the prices rose steadily from the base price. The hall was bustling with noise and excitement. Secret treasures, spirit pills, herbs, ores, and even secret arts and secret techniques. The auction items covered almost everything, and everything one could think of. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,